Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 542nd episode of the GeekVerse podcast, but more importantly, the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, longest title in the world, spoilers review discussion. I am the goo, Trask now, and I'm joined by...
I am Broccoli Boy, Kirklin Patzer.
I am the Quantumaniac, Dylan Muss.
I'm the not a dick, Taylor Field.
Drink the goo. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk about the first... Dude, do you not remember that from the movie? You looked very confused when I yelled out, drink the goo. You're like...
No, I remember it now.
Okay,
I remember it now.
how could you
Taylor
forget?
thought it was someone in the other room in his house. I was like,
That's what Emily just yells on the middle of the night. She's got some issues, but
God.
ladies and gentlemen, here we are to kick off the Phase 5 of the MCU. We're right in the middle of the multiverse saga. We got Jonathan Majors back. We got Paul Rudd back. We got the gang and the crew, maybe some other new people along the way, and we're gonna break down each and everything about it, thing we like, dislike, excited for, end credits, the whole shebang. You know how it goes. As usual, we will do a non-spoilers review, and then we'll give you a warning. So if you're thinking, oh, should I see this, or you're seeing this next week, we'll give you a clear-cut break. You can get out and then come back at any point. It'll be in this feed or the separate review feed, because we have a separate review feed. We got a separate feed for SideQuest, our gaming show. We got a separate feed for newscasts and retrospectives, which will be getting off hot and heavy very much soon. You got John Wick, Evil Dead coming your way. Taylor, where can they find all it?
Ladies and gentlemen, with your internet connection, you can find all that in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter, and GeekVerse is our Facebook.
Like the one time I had the link ready is the time he's actually like slower. You know, I had
So,
it prepped.
You look like
know.
you were struggling there, so I
No,
thought
no,
I'll
no.
slow it down.
No, I just get a text from a threatening fan. No, I'm joking. So,
Thought my
yeah.
internet was cutting out again. Taylor was super slow
Uh-oh.
that time.
Up. But yeah, head down to the description below that has everything. Like I said, those separate feeds. You can check out our podcast. Everyone has 8 shows. And then most importantly, head over to Patreon, because we are a fan support network. Between the listeners and Patreon, we could not do this without you. Could not have as many shows and spin-off shows and specials as we do. So a big thank you. You get episodes ad-free early. This Sunday at 11 a.m. PST is our After 9, or what is it? February edition. It's a morning edition. And yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I'm excited to get people's thoughts on this movie, on the Flash trailer. Lots of good geek stuff to talk about and just catch up. It's always a good time. And yeah, get a bunch of stuff early, exclusive, ad-free, like I said. Big thank you to our Patreon producers. Aaron Brain, Aaron of Darkness, Joshua White. So big thank you to you guys. Thank you to everyone else that's listening. We really appreciate it. And we will talk about more after. Will be a big celebration, but a big thank you, whether this is your first episode or you've been with us since the very beginning or you've been with us a little bit, whenever you start, a big thank you, because not to jinx it, unless, you know, some reason Spreaker shuts down, we never get it. But tomorrow we will be breaking 2 million downloads. I'm pretty confident because this review comes out. So big congratulations to all you guys. And to put it into perspective, it took us 5 years to hit 1 million downloads. It took us 2.5 years to hit the 2 million point. So that's a big thing, because we could not do that. That's people sharing the podcast. That's people sticking around listening, telling their friends. So we really appreciate that. And yeah, we also do more content, but there wouldn't be downloads if you guys weren't checking out. So we really appreciate it. So thank you. We're going to talk about that after 9, just like have a fun celebration, because that's a crazy 2 million. 2 million people have hit the download button on that.
I'll get the bubbly ready.
Yeah, and that's
Drinking
why we're ending
champagne,
Geek First
10 a.m.
right now on a high. But yeah, get some Zoas, you know, stuff like that.
crack
But
some Zoa.
yeah, so I want to start off with some energy. I want to go for a loop. Sometimes I say and laugh because you never know. But Taylor Field, what did you think of Ant-Man and the Wasp?
You want energy,
Quantumania. Yeah. Let's get the people going. You're just freshly off of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Here you are, seeing another modern classic.
This is probably my favorite movie of 2023 so far.
Okay.
Woo!
High praise.
I think
How many
that
movies you've seen?
this is my 4th one of 2023.
Damn, that's pretty good.
Spoilers for Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Yeah.
And Megan.
I think that throughout the whole time while I'm watching it, it didn't feel like an MCU movie to me. It really felt like Star Wars with superheroes, and I really, really liked that. It was totally my kind of vibe. I feel like we got so many things that I was just feeling like I was also in like an RTS video game at times, which was just so wonderful on every level. I loved it so much, and I was laughing. Some humor didn't obviously work for me, but there was a lot of innocent kind of things that I thought was just really funny, and they do one thing and then they push it again and again. I just think that this is a movie that you should see in theaters. I think that, well, I can't because obviously the critics are on the opposite end of the spectrum, and most people are not really enjoying this movie. But I'm happy to say I'm one of the few probably that will stand by this, and definitely I want to go see it again in theaters because I thought it was great. Like I really enjoyed it.
Who else have you talked to? You know, we're just talking about now. Who else?
I've seen people talking about it.
You've seen the
posting
GV
things.
Discord.
I've seen two
That's the
comments in the
Discord.
GB Discord.
That's what I
my,
saw.
my barometer for what people
Yeah,
think
not
about this.
hybrid.
GV
He's over
Discord,
there.
go in there. You know,
Yeah.
we're talking about there. So okay, so you'd recommend people go to theaters though to see it.
I recommend people go see it. Like there was a guy behind me who just said, "My brain is just so big from this movie," and I was like, "What's a bold statement?"
Was
But-
that a MODOK joke?
Yeah,
or-
yeah.
No, no,
What
he
does
was
that mean?
he was genuinely.
Did you
like,
turn back? It was
sincere.
just actually MODOK was sitting
Staring right at you.
Yeah, he was just having like a hell of a time, and like
Nice.
this woman next to Madison was like almost. I thought she was gonna grab Madison. She was freaking out, like lurching in her
Why
seat.
is she just
like,
grabbing your
she
wife?
was just like.
Did you basically
Your
have like an
pretty
empty
wife, your
theater?
pretty
So why
wife.
is one person sitting right next to Madison?
That
the other
was a
guy's right
joke.
behind you?
That was a
Okay.
joke.
Yeah,
So
it was a
I
joke.
took
I
the
didn't mean
photo
anything.
and I posted in the Discord. I think people took it seriously, but
Well, what
like,
did you
we were
say?
there
You
like
took a photo with an empty theater, and then you're like, empty theater.
we were there 40 minutes before the showing, so it'll definitely be empty. Like it got
40
packed.
minutes. What do you do for 40 minutes?
We were eating popcorn and we were watching the Flash trailer on my phone.
like what, like 20 times?
Yeah. Oh damn! I love this Flash trailer. Oh okay, there you
That's
go.
amazing.
And chat, we'll address some things when we get into the spoilers here because we don't know what you're saying there. Kirklin Patzer, continue at the baton. What do you think about this film?
Yeah, I'll continue the baton. I had a really good time watching this movie in theaters. I feel like my overall theater audience was pretty like good vibes, in the mood, like a lot of laughs and just overall people enjoying it. I definitely like have some issues with things that go on in here, but luckily I feel like those are pretty minor. Like there is some story things, maybe some character decisions that it was pretty like rough in the moment, but by the end of it I didn't like leave and just think of like how much better it could have been, and maybe some of those things were reversed or switched around or done differently. Because yeah, overall I had a good time. I thought Paul Rudd's just fantastic. All the humor I think around him just really hit for me. I think the humor would have been so much more missing if we didn't have the Paul Rudd factor in there. Thought Cassie was great. Obviously, first performance with this actress. I thought she was fantastic. So I can't wait to see more of her. And yeah, I like, without getting into spoilers, I feel like just the overall lead up to Kang was just such a an unnerving feeling that I had like until we actually got him on screen. So I'll go into specifics like when we talk about that. But for me, that really hit well. So yeah, just the introduction of Kang I thought was really good. And yeah, just overall, I feel like we were going places I wasn't expecting at all. Got a lot of like Jeanette obviously in here.
Who?
Janet. That was her French cousin. Yeah.
That's what they call it in the
Jeanette.
quantum realm.
Tomato.
Jeanette Van Dyne.
Code
Yeah.
name.
But overall, I think I'm with Taylor. I think I recommend, if you're like an MCU goer, you're probably already seeing this in theaters. So
yeah.
it's kind of a weird one to recommend if you only kind of catch like maybe the MCU movies on like big events. I'd say maybe you can stay away from this one, because I think the visuals were crazy to the point that like maybe too much visuals. I'm sure we'll talk about it. Shay compared this to just a Shark Boy and Lava Girl movie, and I feel like I didn't understand it until I was like, yeah, I similar visuals to what that was. So yeah, for sure. But yeah, so maybe some people would think the visuals are a little bit too crazy for them, get a little bit nauseous. I wouldn't want to see this in 3D, that's for sure. But yeah,
They had a
overall,
sign. Have you guys
I had a
ever
good
seen this
time.
before? Like the entrance to the theater, like the auditorium, had just like a printed piece of paper, and it was like, "Be warned, this movie, as like if you're photosensitive at all, like will your own
This movie will
risk."
fuck
I didn't
you
read
up.
it, but
I've
that
never
makes
seen that like
sense.
printed on
Yeah.
a piece of paper and just like
Yeah.
taped to the door before. It was interesting.
I had a poll and it had like a plastic thing with Ant-Man, but it's like, oh, that's just like the poster to let you know it's these ones. That's what it must have been, was a warning as well. So Yeah.
The only time I've seen a cutout piece of paper on like a door like that was for actually Candyman, and it was like telling people that this is a horror movie. Do not take your kids to it.
Mm.
So someone must have made the poor decision. But
Who's looking at
That's
that poster
funny.
of the man covered in bees with a hook and like family movie Sunday? You know,
it's got a good name to it. It's people like candies.
the only time I got
Anyways.
something like that, I think I remember at least recently, was for Incredibles 2 because they had those flashing sequences, and they're like, if you are epileptic, you do not go into this theater, or like
Yeah.
be prepared and stuff like that, because screensaver obviously fuck you up. But
Oh yeah, forgot
yeah.
about screensaver.
how could you? How could you? So, Dylan Muss.
Sure, I'll go next. I'll take that baton from Kirkland, and I'm gonna just throw it off a cliff. I was not a big fan of this one. I think, to put it simply, this is just a very weird movie, and not like a fun Doctor Strangey weird way. But for me, it was just the writing was, I'm not even going to say all over the place. It was just bad and confusing. So many weird choices. I don't know if you guys see much of this, but like I feel like the AI like generators have been getting crazy these days, like Chat GPT and stuff. The first like 45 minutes of this like felt like an AI generated superhero script for me. It was crazy, and then it's just so awkward. And then when I don't want to be mean, but after the movie is done, I looked up who is the writer for this thing. Is this just some horrible writing? And his most prolific work is like 6 episodes of Rick and Morty. And then it was like, oh, this all makes sense now. I understand
Yes.
Whole Guy, and I understand all these weird characters. I understand why there's no depth to anything here. So it kind of all came together in that moment. But yeah, just also like music is very rarely used in this movie. There's just tons of sequences that are completely quiet, and it's such a bizarre choice. So I have a lot of issues with the just writing in general. And, I going into this, like watching the trailers and stuff, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a very different Ant-Man. This is going to be very serious. That's what the trailers kind of told me. Of course, every trailer has like a joke or two. It's Ant-Man. But this was like just as jokey as those first two. But I got like 1 or 2 laughs. Out of like, let's say there's 50 jokes, like, yeah, 1 or 2 laughs. Like the ratio was not good. I was mostly cringing through some of these attempted jokes and stuff like that. But to take it a bit more positive, there is still some great moments with Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. Of course, he's great, so he still has some good moments. And then for me, it's Kang. Kang is great. There's some moments that I think are kind of weak, but overall, it takes a bit for him to get into the movie. I think that's why that first while was pretty atrocious for me. But once he's in there, I enjoyed it quite a bit more, and I'm excited to see him in the next thing. But yeah, overall, I think this was just I don't even want to say messy. I just think it's mostly bad and inconsistent. So there you go.
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me because like with the MCU, there's so much barometer stuff, right? Where I always like I've said this before, where I've enjoyed enough of every MCU movie. There's always something like Thor: Dark World. I have something, even Thor: Love and Thunder, which people have turned on, just absolutely dog all the time. I still have enough enjoyment, even Eternals, but. Like, I think there unfortunately has to be a first time for everything. And to maybe mini spoil my score, I think this is the first MCU movie that will not be getting a passing grade from me. I'm with Dylan that I don't think it's so much messy. It's just, it's not a good movie. I did not enjoy it. I think, I wish streaming services had chapter select nowadays, so whenever I wanted to watch this, I could just go to the Jonathan Majors scenes. And it sucks because that's just like what everyone says, like, and it's true, right? But I think like that's why people are saying it so much, because that is the biggest shining spot, is his performance. And luckily, especially we'll talk about spoilers, like I think it's a great job that they got this actor, because he's gonna have to do a lot in this phase. Like they're putting this entire phase on this man's shoulders, so at least performance wise, and even I thought his dialogue, I think for the most part, it all worked. I think some motivations being told, but for dialogue, it's like the writer focused it on Kang, and then the rest of the stuff was kind of thrown together. Like, oh, we could do this, we could do this. Pacing is very... It's strange because it's only a 2-hour movie. It felt much longer for me, but it's the first act is, I think, the messiest because the pacing is just whiplash, like breakneck. It just it goes and goes and goes and doesn't take time to breathe, and it's just one CGI set piece after another, and it's just people interacting. And I know people, and even Taylor, he said this, tons of people have said it feels like Star Wars, and I agree. It just feels like the prequels of Star Wars. That's what it feels like to me, because these sets and what they're interacting with, it's just like a bunch of, and it's not log truck bad, but like majority of the time it doesn't, none of it feels real, and I don't feel encapsulated. It's like you look at something like Dune, and I'm not gonna say Avatar, because Avatar's worked on for 10 years, it should look like that, but something like Dune, and I know MCU's had their problems, but when you're gonna have this movie that's entirely the quantum realm, I have to buy into it. I never do. But yeah, Majors are great, and and this is gonna sound biased as hell, but I think another person for me shout out is Michelle Pfeiffer. I think she's fantastic in this movie. There's a scene between, minor spoilers, between Jonathan Majors and Michelle Pfeiffer, and that's the thing where it's like, you have these great actors in the MCU, just give us more scenes like this where it's just these characters interacting and talking, and that's the best part of the movie, was these characters having a conversation, not these set pieces, not these jokes, which I agree with Dylan that for once in the Ant-Man movies, none of these really hit for me. It was they just weren't working. They were trying to be very serious, and we cut to, and I think MCU does this a lot, but I guess just the writing of these jokes didn't hit. And actually I like the actress, but I didn't really have any connection with Cassie in this movie, and I think that's partially because we have to rush to get into the quantum realm, because it's literally, I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes of the real world. I'm giving some spoilers away, but then it's quantum, and then once it's quantum, it's just running away from CGI things. So I think if you're here to see Majors give a performance, and if you like Kang, you can get that, but at the same time, it's not like he's in it like a bunch. I don't know what his full screen time is, but if you're iffy about this movie and you want to see it because Kang, I say you could probably wait for Disney Plus, because he's in it maybe, I'd say 20 minutes the most. Like, he's in it a lot, but it's spaced out, those scenes. He's fantastic in it, and Majors is great. Yeah, and I don't know, the same way you brought up the writer, Dylan, I'm very much worried, because this is the guy that's writing Kang Dynasty, and I feel like there's going to be
You serious?
Oh yeah. But I feel like after this weekend,
That can't be. No,
that's
correct.
true. No, that's true. That's true. Because I imagine, because he wrote Kang in this movie, they're like, well, he wrote Kang. I imagine they're gonna
my
get some other
God.
writers
You
after
just broke my heart with that
this
information.
movie. So yeah, no, this was not enjoyable, and it sucked because in the middle kind of shifts, and we start to meet some characters. Go, okay, I'm starting to like it more. I'm starting to like it more, and then a scene or two will just come and go. Oh, it's stopping it. So yeah, it is messy, but I don't think it, like what Dylan said, I'm just repeating he said. It's not so much that it's messy, it's just bad, very rushed. I feel like it's an Ant-Man movie, but it's not really an Ant-Man movie. Paul Rudd is just kind of around. It doesn't really feel like he's the lead of this. He is, but yeah, so I don't know. I will watch this again because I think it's a good background one, and I'll have to watch it until someone makes the YouTube cut so I can watch just the Kang cut of scenes. But other than that, this is very, very low in the MCU. And if it's failed, then that would be honestly, the weakest MCU project. It would be last place. I didn't think anything would replace Eternals this quickly for me, but Quantumania, I think, has done that. So
He probably had the same amount of screen time as he did in the Loki finale, to be honest.
no, I think he had more here.
A little more?
I guess that was 40 minutes. So yeah, it could be, because he had a long speech in that Loki finale. So I think it's about that, where the trailers to me make it seem like he's Thanos and he's in this entire thing. It's like for half the movie he's not even in. I said that #Trash. So I told UA people, I think it was maybe on Marvel Alliance, I'm like, I don't think Kang's gonna be in this as much as people think. I just thought, because the reason was in the trailers they just kept showing him in the same scenes over and over, and to me that was a sign of, okay, he's in a little selection, and I think they use him well for what they have, but I'll save that for spoilers. So
I feel like he's in it a lot. I feel like maybe the last 10, 20 minutes of his screen time is like him standing in a room like, get them, and stuff like that,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it's like not really a riveting performance.
But that's what I mean, a lot that
that
time. That's probably like 10 seconds. So it's like it feels like he's there a lot, but
Yeah,
on
fair
screen,
enough.
I'll be excited to see what the count is and stuff. So anything else non-spoilers before we get in this? This should be a good one because we're divided here. Civil
yeah, it
War.
doesn't have
Can't
an author.
believe this guy's writing Avengers. I'm so that bums me out so much, man.
Well,
Oh
at
my
least
God.
if you like Shang-Chi, the guy's directing that, so I imagine he's going to be doing some writing too. Like, he'll write the screenplay, but I imagine it's going to go through some passes.
Okay.
And I think that they will, I think they're going to tweak some stuff. I think it's the same way that the reason we haven't got Eternals to announce, as much as people don't like it. Here's the thing. I'm not these people that are sharing the Rotten Tomatoes score being like, this is the start of the end of the MCU. DC's taken over this year of Flash. This is a bump in the road. Guardians could be great. Marvels could be great. I don't think anyone's going to give a fuck about the Rotten Tomatoes score of Ant-Man Quantumania when we get to Deadpool 3 and you got Wolverine. Like, it's if people love to compare Marvel so much and sometimes it's an insult to cinematic TV, then this is just like a episode for some people. I don't think this is Secret Wars will still do great. He's great in King Dynasty. King Dynasty will still do great. Secret Wars still do great. Quality, that's up to the beholder, but I don't think this is they've had their second Rotten Tomato project in 31 projects. That's a pretty good batting average for many franchises that don't have that. So I don't think this is the end of the road or anything. And I don't think people have to worry and stuff. So, but I do think they will, as Feige's talked about in interviews, that they're going to step back and take some time on these projects. I think they're gonna. So, all right, nothing else. Going once, going twice. All right, so we're gonna get into spoilers. So we'll be right back. So if you've not seen Quantumania and you want to not be spoiled, bow out, come back later. We'll be right back. And we're back. So where do we want to start?
I need
place.
this question answered right now, which
Yes.
is that a few weeks ago, even 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, I forget, we did our MCU character draft.
I think it's over
and
now. I think I won.
I think you did, right? Because we've had it so that if you
Oh,
pick a character,
no.
and we've had it so variants count, and there was a million variants of I
There's a
think
lot.
Kirkland just wins by default, right? Like the thing's over already.
Couldn't
in
I just
February.
counter though that they all disappear? In fact, die then?
They didn't die there.
None of them. Only one of them died.
What do you mean one of them died? When they all get sucked up together, that's them being non-existent anymore. That's death.
No, at the very post
No,
credit
at the
scene
very
when
end.
we
Oh,
see
Oh,
all
you're talking
of
about
them.
Kang. I thought you were talking about Paul Rudd when all those Ant-Man.
Oh, no.
No,
I think
those
that's all right.
those aren't
Those aren't
variants, right?
variants.
Those are
Okay.
just like falsehoods of the mind. And Wasp as well. There's like a million her, but those aren't not variants. So I guess we just
Yeah.
maybe Travis, you have Loki. Like maybe Loki in his show we get like a million Lokis or something, but. I feel like it's over already.
That's astronomical.
I'm
amount to
handing over
count
my
for
trophy
Kang.
to you right now, Kirkland, in February. It's all yours, buddy.
Like we can't even count the Kang appearances because there's so many of them, and it's a post-credit scene.
Well, that's a win, though.
Like even if
You
we
guys can have
took
your own
out
race
all
now.
the ones that don't have lines, the fact that there's like 4 different ones in the post credit alone, that is already an insane amount of points. That even if we somehow like took that away from you, Kirkland, I think
Draft's
you'd still
broken.
just win. So
That was the only thing that crossed my
congratulations on
mind in that
that.
scene. I was like, I think I just won everything.
I didn't even think about that. Jeez Louise. Yeah, well, I guess we'll see who plays for second place then. I don't even know. I feel like we'll not even add the Kane points yet, and we'll just wait to the end of the year
Yeah.
and then just do win. But as of right now, yeah, that's goddamn. But yeah, we'll get there. But yeah, let's start with Kang. We'll
Yeah.
save the post credits to the end there. But let's start with Kang. So obviously, lots of promotion. He was in Loki. Lots of build up in the movie. They kind of keep him to the halfway mark. I think other than it's not so much that his motivations I'm not like sold on. I think it's just that we're going to reveal more of their mystery boxing a lot. So other than it's not as clear as Thanos where, hey, I want half the world because resources, blah, 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 blah. He's very much, hey, there's a bigger threat coming. I'm the lesser of two evils. We'll get more into it. I'm down. Everything else I think was a home run. I think dialogue, acting wise was fantastic. And again, the little prequel flashback to just Michelle Pfeiffer and him trying to figure out the ship. That was my favorite part of the movie. I wish that was the movie. Just them on this planet figures because I like their chemistry. I like the back and forth. I love the reveal of her finding everything out. I thought everything with Kang was top notch. Well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was really hoping to get maybe more of those scenes between the two of them because, like, I could tell that they bonded in that quick scene, and I feel like throughout the movie, like you could tell that they like very much felt betrayed from one another. So I just wanted a little bit more to supplement that because, as you said, all that was gold. It was fantastic. I wasn't expecting it at all. I know of Kang. I know he's gonna be the big villain coming up, but like I still just don't know much about Kang. So like when he showed up there, I was like, what gets this guy to like where he was at? So that big reveal, yeah, it was like goosebumps, definitely. yeah, I think Kang was fantastic throughout. There was, as you mentioned, Travis, a lot of like mystery aspects that they weren't going into, and instantly I'm just like, oh, it's just because we're saving it for a next project. I'm just going to accept that they're never going to answer these questions on who sent him here or whatnot. So I think that's. And just like the whole mystery aspect, that's kind of what I was alluding to in my spoiler-free section, was that just until he gets in, it's probably like an hour into the movie. Like it takes a while to get up to it, and the whole lead up of them like not even saying the word Kang. It's just like, oh, he's coming. He's gonna get you. I was sent by him. Like all of this.
The
big
conqueror,
doom.
the conqueror.
Yeah, like all of that worked for me. I feel like until the point that he actually walks into like the cell room to talk to Scott, that's like the first time you actually see him before the flashback. So all of that I just thought was like they took their time, and for me it executed very, very well, because it felt like, holy shit, the Conqueror's here. And then obviously all the scenes that he was on screen was fantastic.
Yeah, he's amazing. Just the performance, especially I watched the last episode of Loki like 2 or 3 days ago. I wanted to get ready. I couldn't remember exactly all the dialogue, the plot points in that, so I wanted to refresh. And just the difference between the playfulness, almost like kind of flamboyant, the performance he has in that, where he's jumping around, he's kind of
He's
acrobatic.
very loopy, yeah.
Yeah, whereas this is like such a different version, where just this guy who's been stranded in this place for who knows how long, and yeah, just a lot more hardened. And I found him very intimidating. I think by the end of the movie, when like we're doing that final, the final like attack on his base, I found at that point he's not really doing anything, so I wasn't really finding him scary. Like if he was going around messing people up, maybe I would have felt that still. But even just the dialogue scene, obviously when Scott and Cassie are in the prison cells, like just the power that he has and the look, the presence is fantastic. And then skipping ahead, but just like very slightly the post credit, like seeing the different versions of him, I cannot wait to just have Jonathan Majors playing 100 different characters in this movie, even if I'm concerned about the writer of this particular movie. But still, like the fact that he's feels like a different person, this different Kang who's gone through this different world, different life to get to where they are when we see them. He's just fantastic. He's got so much range.
Yeah, like I feel like no matter what happens, he's one of those actors that we are pretty confident he'll like raise the material, even if it's lower. He can look at it and be like, okay, I can take this stuff and run with everything. And yeah, at the end, I got into an interesting point of they were making him very powerful very fast, which I was down with, but I was very caught off guard that I thought it was scary that he literally just has this gun or has this beam that just materializes people, just like vaporizes them. He tries to use it on heroes, but he doesn't really lead with that, which was questionable. But no, I love that he just lands down, and you just feel like he is I don't know, you've put all the cheats into a character and you're just going around destroying people in a video game, and that's just him on the ground with all these rebels, and it didn't go well for them though. So Taylor, your thoughts on Kang the Conqueror?
I think Jonathan Majors just knocked it out of the park. I felt like I was terrified from this villain. I think that the way he was delivering like certain like sentences and just like his facial expressions, especially behind those phrases, I think really sold me too. Just he was so intense. He had this very this conquering vibe to him, and I think that he just absolutely delivered. And getting to see him kind of just like you already talked about, just unleash all these powers and stuff like that. Just it was intense when he comes out of the tower. He starts going to war against everyone, all the rebellion, and then
1v50 or whatever he's doing.
1v50, and then he just starts talking off like, I've killed like tons of resistance and rebellions. I've killed tons of Avengers and all. And I'm just thinking, fuck, this guy is intense, like really, really just intense. And then that's him like being very flamboyant and overly like exertive about this statement. And so when you have another low-key moment where he's talking to him and like, oh, like, have I killed you before? Like, oh, Thor with the hammer. Like, he's just talking so calmly about it. And we know Thor to be like, in the OG days, the old guard. Like Thor was definitely one of like you couldn't really kill him. He was just super powerful, almighty. And then now at this point we see okay, he's definitely kind of calmed down a little bit. We can see he is vulnerable, he is susceptible. He could be nearly killed depending on the
Because
situation.
he's still a man. He's just a scientist.
Well,
he's just
exactly.
he just has lots of great. He's obviously combat trained, but then he just has tech from the future, right? And he's very smart. But he is just a person under that armor.
I didn't necessarily love that moment at the very end though, where I remember talking about this when we were looking at the trailers. I'm like, why are him and Ant-Man just like punching each other? Like, what leads to us in that movie where these two characters who have access to these powers are just punching each other? And the fact that he like just has this very vulnerable like little wrist rocket that just got kind of smashed, and now he's just like weak to the point where he's on the same tier as Ant-Man, because Ant-Man didn't have his.
I wouldn't put him on the same tier though.
Yeah,
he kicked the shit out of.
Because
out of
Wasp
Scott
saves
Lang.
him, right? So that's where I feel
He
like
does,
he
but
would have been.
I don't know. It's not like he just one punched him or something. Like I feel like it was a fight still. It still had to be a battle.
I guess the way I take it, even though like it's goofy, which I'm sure some people like, he did just get ravaged by thousands of ants, and that's why I didn't take it. It wasn't just his wrist rocket. I took it that those ants took not everything, but like damaged his entire suit. That like his mask doesn't work, like nothing on this suit works. So that's the way I took it, where his suit got damaged. He had to fight away from these ants, which whatever you care about in this movie, they pose the ants as threats. They're powerful, and then he still won the fight with Ant-Man after all that, with no suit and being hurt. So and he had to be saved from Wasp. So I kind of bought that in the sense that they put him through a lot more before that fight, but he's still got the upper hand. Like if Wasp doesn't show up, Scott Lang's dead. He's a dead man, and it's over for him. It's over for this Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm. I thought that it was. I don't know if we want to segue, but just talk about Wasp. I feel like she had a couple hero moments in this. So that was a good moment for her to be the one to go through and save the day. She also saved the day when Scott was pretty much just about to die during the heist, I guess, of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she didn't really have any story moments, unfortunately, but at least she got to have a couple hero moments. So
It was strange to that moment with when they're trying to get like the power core, and she just like grabs his hand and then flies up and just starts doing what he's like. She has no idea what he's up to, like no idea what the heist is,
I
no
agree.
idea what it was just like there is some dialogue scene missing where okay, let's finish this. It's like, well, what are you finishing? You have no idea what he's doing right now, but that's fine. But yeah, she was we talked about that in lead up, right? Like this movie be called Ant-Man and Wasp. I feel like they're just stuck because they called that second one Ant-Man and Wasp, and yeah, I feel like she was just around. I would say this is her weakest outing. Endgame aside, because she's in that for whatever. I think this is her weakest outing as a character. But I also think this is Paul Rudd's weakest outing as Scott Lang too. Like I actually think, other than Pfeiffer, it's all their weakest outings. Like Michael Douglas to me does not want to be there in this movie, and I understand, because this poor guy, he's getting the Ian McKellen treatment where he's just in a fucking room with a bunch of green screens and the volume, and they're just like, okay, put your hands in this and interact with that. Like if you look at Michael Douglas, sure, there's effects in the first two movies, but it's still in a real world. There's sets, there's people. They've just put him, and it's funny because I thought he was gonna die. I knew he wasn't gonna after, because they did the red carpet. This clip kept going around, and they're like, "Oh, if they make a fourth one, you're gonna come back." He's like, "Only if they kill me." So I feel like he's after this completely done with these movies, and I felt like in this movie it felt like he was checked out a little, like he wasn't into this one as much. It's just, and how could you be, as far as an actor that's not his thing, is doing these prequel type movies. So.
Yeah, hard to blame him.
movies.
Well, that's what it is, right? Like it's that clip of Natalie Portman running on a treadmill, and like of course now we have the volume, so it's different. But just like they're interacting with nothing. Like this entire movie, it's nothing.
Yeah,
right?
it's
So,
the sets, the locations felt pretty small in this. For me, I kind of to Travis's point, like I don't feel like there was a log truck moment, other than maybe that one spot when Janet like first interacts with those aliens, and then she's like walking back to the group, and it's like them in the background. I was like, that is like a looking at the horizon in Thor moment. But for the most part, like the CGI it didn't look bad, but I also wasn't really that engaged with the quantum realm.
Yeah.
I think for me, honestly, a big part of it was the sound design and the fact that there was just like no music. Like I don't know, I felt like it should have had much more of an like ambience to it, but it just felt like the volume.
well, it's because they do that thing, right? When they first land, they're like, look at this place, it's beautiful. Like they're doing the own thing, and like that's the issue. That I don't think that stuff is bad, but they're like, look at this. I'm like, this doesn't look like anything. Like just this looks like a CGI room. Like I can't buy into this of like, man, we're in the quantum realm. It's like, no, it's just a bunch of blobs and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I think what Dylan said there though about like maybe just an added like sound effect to just the overall world that they're in, because everything is different. But like other than the colors, I feel like there was still a lot of references to just like even her like ranch at the beginning. Like it just seemed like a skin that was thrown on like a ranch in Kansas or something that I've seen so many different times. So it didn't feel so much so that it was in like an entirely different world other than just the visuals of it, which is like, again, the movie telling me, the viewer, hey, they're in a different world. Okay, yeah, I get it. It's like a stage play. We're in quantum realm now. Okay, I get it. Those are the rules of the play right now. We can go on carrying with that. But just like, yeah, if anything of just them moving around like just causes like a weird effect of anything, like it would have felt so much more like they're actually in a completely different universe, not so much that there's aliens, which isn't new to us now. You know, it just felt like we were on a Guardians planet or something.
Yeah.
As opposed to like a whole nother realm. So yes, I definitely agree with that point. Because yeah, I don't think there's any moments really that I was like, ugh, like that CGI budget really showed there. But it was more so just the wow factor, I think, wore off within like the first handful of seconds that we were on there, which sucked, because this is our first time like really experiencing the quantum realm. It's been talked about all these times. I've seen glimpses obviously of like Scott shrinking. So yeah, like I'm one of the more positive persons on the review here, but still I don't feel like the quantum realm was done by like to the full extent that I was hoping.
And it's one of those, like, obviously it's different, Lucasfilm versus Marvel. I feel like one of the things we always agreed on, how we felt about the sequel Star Wars movies, they had some, like, great planets and locations and things that really stood out where you go, okay, like in Last Jedi when they're on Crate, or when they're Starkiller Base. Sure, it's just a Death Star, but you think about Kylo and Rey in the snow, and, like, you got and it's just like this. I'm never going to think of, like, describe the quantum realm. I'm like, okay, well,
I feel like we saw everything we need to see in the trailer, right?
Yeah.
Like 1 minute clip is like, okay, I just saw the hour and a half worth of like cool visuals that this movie had for me.
And it's just like if it was Doctor Strange 1, but instead of him going through all those things, you stopped in one spot for 2 hours and you stayed there, and it was just like, and I felt even when they went through the quantum realm and they're doing like the dad, and like that felt very off and cheesy to me when they were falling through with something weird. And I don't know if anyone else thought this, and I think it was just the way they had the sets and they designed like the CGI sets, whatever it may be. When both him and Cassie were big at the end and they're making like the Godzilla whatever jokes, they just like looked like two regular people standing there, and it bugged the shit out of me because all the buildings were in the background, so they're far away. Like, they should have put some other buildings around their feet or something, but it just looked like two people hugging out. I was like, this is not working. Like, oh, I'm big. Like, it did not, like, the dynamics did not fit at all. And that's something I do miss from, like, the very first Ant-Man movie, of just small little scenes of, like, I know people talk about all the time, but just like that Thompson train scene, right? Where it's like this small thing, but it's massive now because our characters are small. And I was looking for that depth of scope, and it didn't have that. It just looked like Catherine Noonan and Paul Rudd standing, like, and I would love see that scene. Like, there's lots of scenes I would love to see here of like the before the effects, like the goo scene. Like, I'd love to see like what they were doing, like, and everything. So,
well, that is a con for me too. You're totally right, because whenever we see these people shrink in size, it's still from a normal person's perspective. You're looking at seeing them run on the ground or whatnot, and they even like Cassie Lang jokes about like, oh, I couldn't see what you were doing. He's like, shrink pounce, or whatever it was. Like, that's such a missed opportunity. That first movie, like you said, Thomas the Train, when he's in the bathtub, like you get to see all of these different scaled environments.
and it's scary when it's from their point of view.
It is scary.
Yeah.
They should have capitalized on that so much, and to not have that in an Ant-Man movie. Like, I know we're already technically small in the quantum realm, but they're going smaller. I want to see that perspective. That's what makes it Ant-Man for me. So
yeah,
That's something too that's like strange to me while I was not even like so much during the movie, but like when I was driving home, it like hit me where like when they keep shrinking, wouldn't you be experiencing like cells that are like smaller sizes and stuff? Like it just seemed like, nope, this is just a new room with like weird things and the rules apply same as Earth. Like if there's an ant, you probably won't see it unless it's actually there. Like it was weird to me that like they're in this realm of like you saw a different like embryos that were like huge. Like, why wouldn't there just be something that's like that size? Again, and like maybe this is just the rules of the quantum realm like not being explained correctly, and I just have to live with it. But it just seemed a little bit inconsistent there. That like when they would shrink in size or get bigger, like I feel like they didn't really interact with anything of a bigger size. It was I don't know. It was strange in that sense.
Can you guys help me understand how time works in the quantum realm? This is something I felt like I understood, and now I feel like I don't, because in Endgame we had this situation where he was there for 5 hours. That turned out to be 5 years in the real world. But then Janet was in the quantum realm in her mind for 30 years, but also in our Earth time 30 years. So that was like a 1-to-1. And then for Kang, it's a bit unclear. Like in the time that she was gone, it seems like, okay, that's been like, okay, Endgame happened. So what? Maybe it's like been like 2 or 3 years since then.
Yeah, it's been about 2 or 3 years. Yeah,
so
somewhere like that.
So in the quantum realm, has it been that exact same? It's been 2 or 3 years for all of them as well. And like, because when they split off, and then he started building his kingdom is fucking massive. Like, how has that been on construction for just 30 years? Was that the 2-year period? I
think it has been 30 years. I think it's when they have the fight and break off, he does. Because they talk about the rebellion and fighting him, so I think he was building that entire time she was there as well. Yeah.
So then what's up with the Scott being there for 5 hours thing, Janet being there for 30 years? Like, why is there a difference there? And that was even before Quantumania, and I hadn't questioned it until now.
We know that there's certain, again, the quantum realm that has certain different time dystopian parts, like the ants, for example. The ants fell at the same point in time, but they hit a random time warp thing, and then they were there for thousands of years and built their civilization up, and that was only hours.
There's no set rules.
There's no set rules, really.
Pretty much just whatever the plot requires in that moment. Okay.
Yeah. Because why does Jonathan Majors not age at all, but then Michelle Pfeiffer does, right? He looks because they make her look a little de-aged when they meet, and then obviously now real world, she's a little bit older, and you can't be like, well, she's in the real world. No, she looked older in Ant-Man and the Wasp when we found her. So it's like, why does
He's probably got some tech in his suit
and that's probably it, right? It's always going to be some fucking, well, they landed on the north side of the quantum realm, and that's 5 years, and the south side, that's 60. Like, it's that where, he has a fucking steroid that keeps him young, because, he zigs and zag at a time, so.
I thought it was funny that in the movie, Scott has a line about that Cassie's like, we need to get out of here because think about your mom, like in terms of the time, because obviously that's what he experienced.
It's like
and then
10
even
minutes
like
could be
when
10
all
years.
of them go out of the quantum realm, and then Wasp comes back in, like that same amount of time has passed, and then that portal closes, and then a new one opens.
Yep.
Which why did they do that? They did that as like a point of tension. Like the end of the movie is going to be that these two are stuck in the quantum realm now, but then they just undid it immediately,
choice.
and then once again, no time passed. So there's so many weird little That's why I said this is weird at the beginning. There's just tons of little things like that I'm just so curious why they chose to end the scene, like why the finished product is that kind of exact plot there.
Because I was the same thing. I was like, oh shit, we're going to have Wasp and Ant-Man down here for a little bit. This makes sense why they might be missing for a bit. That could give... Because some people have the theory, which I like this. If you remember Shang-Chi, there was that end credit, and there was like the bands were like giving a signal. And some people have this theory of like, what if Scott gets stuck in the quantum realm and he's sending the signal, and that's how that's not happening because they got taken out. So I was like, oh, I really like this idea of them down there. They just said, I love you. So they got each other. It's not like Janet, at least, where, okay... It sucks it sucks, of course, that Cassie would be alone again, but she has some people, at least for Ant-Man, he has the person he loves. So they wouldn't be completely alone, right? I was very caught off guard of Cassie calling Hank Grandpa Hank. I felt that was very off.
But she called Hope. Right.
Yes,
never called her like mother-in-law or something like that.
She's known them for about the same amount of time, because I was like, in my head, I'm like, oh, right, because Hank, he wasn't snapped, so he must have bonded with Cassie. Like, oh, wait, no, he was gone.
Everyone was
gone. So, like, she's known, like, Hank for a couple months because they didn't interact in 1 and 2 that much, Hank and the little girl. So the fact that she's calling him Grandpa Hank was just like, what the fuck is, like, it's everything about the daughter for me was super weird. And like I said, I like Newton a lot in other projects, but I think this was just a fact of not that I need this movie to be longer, but we need more time of just her and Rudd together. And it felt like they were just trying to force it of their daughter and father. She calls Hank Grandpa Hank. Like, I felt like they were just doing the tell, don't show. And who knows, maybe in my mind, if they would have got the same actress from Endgame, maybe I could have connected those dots. But I don't know. I really don't know why they recast it.
That's,
but yeah, I felt the family dynamic was they're trying to very force it. The family dinners, everything. I didn't buy it. It wasn't. Especially when Scott's like spending more time like doing book fairs and like, it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I don't know if it would have helped me at all if the actress from Endgame was still in this role. But for me, it's like, okay, we have essentially a new actress for this character that we had for the previous 2 movies. You could say 3 movies if you want to include Endgame in that. And I feel like we needed a bit more time to build that bond, because to me, it just I needed some time to get used to the fact that they're father-daughter, right? It didn't feel as just natural as the young Cassie actress from the first movie, who's great. Like, that's such a fun character. Like, every scene she's in, she's hilarious, and like
And we
that
got 4 hours with that.
they
character,
have that chemistry, right? So I feel like I needed more time, but kind of to your point earlier, Travis, that like we go to the quantum realm pretty quick, and then it's kind of a shit show from there, and then it takes a bit, like a good bit, before we connect those characters again. You know, Scott and Cassie are off on their own adventure for a bit. And you think that would maybe be enough time to get some of this bond, but there's just so much plot and other stuff happening and weird goo characters and other societies that you're not really given that time for them to just have a one-on-one and have some of these combos. And maybe it would have helped too if we had some of those characters from the other movies, like the mom and dad and Louis, I forget what his name is, but like all those characters are really fun, and I know it's hard to fit all of them in here, but maybe that would have helped connect this, because it didn't really feel like the third movie in a trilogy. It kind of felt like its own thing, and very much like a setup for something else, right?
Big
rather than its own
movie.
standalone thing.
Yeah, with Cassie, I agree, especially in hindsight, thinking back to the Endgame performance of that character, because it seems like this dynamic between her, like Rudd and Katie Newton, I think is her name.
Katie or Catherine Newton?
I think it's Catherine. I'm on nickname basis.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Cat
Yeah,
Newton.
like,
I mean,
like
Cat Newton.
it seemed like she was younger here than like what she would have been in Endgame. So it's almost like this like dynamic should have been before that. Again, it is tough
I still
because
don't
you have
understand the
different
time.
actresses.
Think about Ant-Man and the Wasp, that little girl, and we jump 5 years. Every time we get the Endgame, I'm like, how did she grow that much? And maybe it does, like, the time.
Yeah, she said she was 8, right? In this movie, she said she was 8 at that time. So 8, she would have been 13,
Newton's
and then
playing
2 or
a-
3 years past. Like, obviously, the math does not work out. It's some
Catherine
quantum realm
Newton's playing a
time
15-year-old? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's tough to buy.
Yeah, I definitely thought she was an adult based on the way they're talking about. Like, it seemed like she like lives on her own and goes
She
does
should
that all
be
the
an
time.
Catherine
adult
Newton is
because-
26 years old, and she's
like-
playing like a 15, 16.
Oh, I thought you meant in the movie. I'm like, she's 26. You're supposed
Yeah,
to be
no.
like,
Yeah,
That's
big
crazy.
time. Yeah, we lost a lot of time in the quantum realm.
Well, so like in the movie, like you're saying she's a teenager in the movie. That's what she's supposed to be.
I think that's
Because
what they're
like a
playing her
teenager
off
would not
as.
be thrown into a jail cell and then like
I
Yeah.
know that's the
bail.
thing. I don't think she's
Yeah.
supposed to be, but time wise, based on the MCU, I feel like she has to be. But that
Yeah.
Because she's
connect.
8, 5 years. So yeah, it gets us to what? Only 13.
I guess we
and then
could
a
have say
couple-
that this movie is taking place like even a couple years from now in terms of the
Maybe.
MCU timeline kind of thing. You know, maybe it's
Post-grad,
like
I
supposed to be
guess.
really much closer to Kang Dynasty, which is like another 2 or 3 years in the future. It's getting hard with the 5 years at this point to keep track of everything, right?
post grad, and she's been to prison 3 times or jail 3 times at least.
4
so.
times now after this. Oh no, that was
Oh,
Ant-Man.
that was
Sorry.
Ant-Man.
He was
Yeah,
4.
yeah,
He was 4.
He was 4. But yeah, just quickly for Cassie, I feel like for me, I really like just her performance of like the young rebel that like Scott kind of like the youthful Scott. I feel like it was obvious to see that side of her. So for me, it was like, okay, I could tell that was her, like that's his daughter very easily. I liked her little gadgets and just wanting to like constantly do something. She's got young Avenger written all over her. And I think just like, again, like her charisma on screen, her little one-liners and like a comedic situation, I feel like all of that just worked for me. So it was more so like, here's your next Ant-Man character. And for me, it's like, nice. I like her. I think she's fun. I think she's definitely, like, we haven't even hit the potential, obviously, because we were missing out on a lot of good character moments between, like, her and Scott. So I'm hoping not even necessarily just like, well, yes, I do want her and Scott to bond on screen together, but I'm more so just looking to like where she's going forward. Same thing with like a Yelena, like where like I can't wait to get more of that performance, or Kate Bishop as well. So yeah, like I feel like for me it was just like, here's your new character, and for me I agree with you guys. It definitely was lacking in some areas, and I feel like just missed potential because we had her on screen with Scott, but they just didn't go there with the writing of like giving them a good dialogue sequence, which does suck. And maybe in the moment I didn't really realize it, but now that we're stewing on it, for sure I wish we got that version. But yeah, I like her suit too, purple. It looks sweet.
Yeah, looks alright. I when I think about her character too, and this is pretty much everyone except for Ant-Man and Kang for me, is like, what is like, point me to like one just great moment of hers in this, like a time when she just gets to act her ass off or anything, and I just don't feel like she gets any of that. She doesn't get to do like a fun scene on her own. She has like this kind of friendship with Gentaro, something like that is the name of this character, but like I could not care less about what's going on there. So I think that's where it struggles for me too, is like even in the trailers, like, oh, I think this seems like one of those emotional scenes she's gonna get, but I just don't know if I got that. Instead, she's kind of just fun, like spunky, kind of young Scott version. And oh god, I don't know when we want to get into MODOK, but holy fuck, like any dialogue she had with him was cringing my head off almost.
So with Cassie like having that big moment, I think they like I could probably point to a scene and call it that. Unfortunately for me, that was like one of my least favorite scenes in the entire movie. That was when she was giving like the big speech, guys, stand up, we're gonna rebel, we're gonna like, we all are in this together. And like for me, just it just was so like weird and cringy, because it was like, this just doesn't fit for her to be like leading this rebellion. And yeah, like the whole dialogue, it was like I'm watching like Channel 22 YTV or something, and like this is like the after school. I mean, like, and yeah, that was rough. This is like a big intense moment, and the dialogue just really felt cringy.
Let's fuck him up.
Even the logistics of just like Kang's his base is fucking massive, and like just within 20 seconds they're like, I guess if we go down this hall, like maybe we can hack into this thing, and then just like instantly take out his comms. Like all of it is just so forced to get this moment. It's like, how does that character know? She's like, yeah, follow me, I know where to go. How do you know where to go? How do you know anything about this place?
This is where it reminded me of her speech of like on what was that planet called the Cassian Andor speech?
Yeah, that's
Fuck
the
the
good
Empire.
version of this. Yeah, that's what I thought they were trying to evoke, and it's just so funny in Andor. This is like this big like great moment, and they do it here, and it was just, it's odd because I think they're trying to play her off as awkward, and I think, like Kirklin said, I think that was supposed to be the big moment, and that's where I went, okay, either writing is going on, or for me it was something acting-wise where something's not clicking here, and they're trying to make Scott all proud, and of course she gets attacked. He's like, no, and stuff like that. But like, I agree. I had many problems with Kang's base, and I'll mention some of those after the second ad break right now. And we're back. So yeah, my issue I had with Kang and this base going on is, I don't understand at all why he kept keeping Janet alive. Like at one point, once they're all out there, and Kang literally, when he jumps down, he's just like popping off, killing a bunch of people. That's cool. I didn't understand why he didn't kill Janet at all, because the rest of the people are out there, they're fighting. So you're assuming he's going to just kill Ant-Man, Wasp, everybody. So why he's just leaving Janet to hang around with just two guards? And like the thing is, this guy has a base. There's only 2 people maximum watching prisoners at a time. And these people have like multiple times escaped from Kang. So it's not like, hey, you 20, watch her. It's like you 2 who apparently just get kicked in the ankle and it's done for, you watch her. So yeah, the schematics and the easy escape, even the prison of like, there's a couple guards at this prison watching all these people. Like, what's going? Like, and that's what sucks. Is I guess all of them were supposed to be out there for the roll call. Like his big, yeah, that's why. Like, he had a big critical error, I guess. But the whole time I was like, all right, this all just feels too easy, and I hate that when they do that with the character of like, I'll fucking kill her if you do anything, and then they do this stuff and he didn't do it. Like, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? And even then, like, there's a one moment too where it's strange, where Ant-Man and Kang are fighting. And he's like, you should have just went home. Should have went with your daughter. But like, as Ant-Man pointed out, like, he didn't keep the deal. So I didn't really know what Kang was talking about in that moment, because the deal was, you give me the orb, I give you your daughter. Kang leaves, and that's fine with me. Kang breaks the deal, like, fuck you guys, I'm leaving you stranded. But then later on, he's like, you could have had it all. You could have gone back home with your daughter. It's like, you kind of took that away from him. That deal was no longer available. So I was a little iffy on the kind of end sequence with just people escaping, this deal conversation. The base was looked cool, but
I'll bring up another point I have later, but yeah, for some reason Scott cannot conceive of the possibility that Kang would lie to him. This comes up a couple times. He cannot conceive of this strange possibility that someone
he's
could
taking him to court.
lying
He's
to
gonna hit up Jennifer Walters.
We don't
and
have our word. We have nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, this is a man who Janice described as, hey, he doesn't just kill people, he goes to timelines and kills trillions of people. And this guy broke his word. And yeah, that line, our word is our bond. It's like, I would have understood if this was a variant of an Avenger, like you're dealing with an evil Iron Man. There's like some sort of relationship there. But like this guy who's known as the Conqueror, and like I said, yeah, what's he gonna do? Get Jennifer Walters and sue him for breaking a deal? It was very melodramatic.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah, I would be
her in
too.
there.
Just Kanging
But
him in this courtroom.
The nitpicky thing I want to bring up with the scene you mentioned, Travis, is we have that sequence where Ant-Man and the Wasp, they got the orb shrunk down, and they're standing in that kind of sandy area with the thing. Kang comes out from around the corner. He gets the orb, and he takes Janet with him, right, to his base. They go through like that
see
portal.
if they survive. That's what he says, right? When he leaves them, see if they can survive.
Yeah. And then we cut back to them, and they're all just lying around, and like the ants are coming up. We don't see that they're ants yet. And then we immediately cut back to what Kang is doing. But like when we saw them 5 seconds ago, and there's no time has passed. But yeah, Kang is walking with Janet. But then the next scene, he's in his throne room, and the guards bring Janet in.
Yeah.
Like, what is the logistics of this? It feels like there was maybe a scene that was in there that they cut, or it's just like the writing is at that level. It's so bad where they really wanted this cool moment where Kang's on his throne and they bring in the prisoner, but it's like she was never in a cell at any point.
No.
So this makes no sense whatsoever.
And then there's
a few of those moments in here.
Then he just gets off the throne in the middle of the conversation too. So it's just like you just want to say that. No,
I do like his floating
too.
platform. That looked cool.
Yeah.
So he got off in style for sure.
Yeah, it was strange that they walked that portal and then the next scene they're like not together. There was some strange stuff in general where when Ant-Man, so he gets the orb thing, right? And it's Janet saying, don't do this, and he's going to give it to him. So it's Janet, Ant-Man, and Hope. They're all together, and you got Kang there. And then off in the distance, Hank is in a ship, right? And then MODOK comes and like, you remember me? And then, but they start having a fight, and the plane goes up, everything. Our characters don't react at all. Hank is in the air fighting MODOK. They don't give a shit about Hank. There's no reaction. And someone's going to probably say, well, they were parked so far away, you couldn't see. But it's like, I don't know, but I guess before we should move on, Kirklin, do you have anything? Because we at one point we were talking about we got sidelined. Anything specifically about Pfeiffer or Douglas, about just or even Wasp, the fan? Because we were talking about them, but we went off some tangent of speeches and guards and stuff. But anything about the Ant-Man family?
Yeah, so I agree with what Dylan said about Wasp. I didn't think she had like many great character moments, but the hero moments were definitely stepped up. So it was nice to see her being the hero. You know, her name's on the title of the movie, so it was nice to see her kicking ass. I like that she's just saving like the world essentially. I like that whole storyline with her. She's like fixing deforestation and like just all putting the PIM particles to work and just getting awards for it. So her being in the quantum realm is actually like a very big deal. I feel like it's very important for her to get back. So just going back to save Scott, I feel like it's a little risky. I feel like a lot of people are relying on her. Send Hank. He could be happy with the ants.
Hey,
you know? Kang. So yeah, that's for her. I thought Michael Douglas, like, yeah, I think it was good for me. Like I think the humor
I don't
worked
think he was
for
bad,
me.
yeah.
It didn't come across where it's like, oh, this guy is just really needing this paycheck and like he hates being on there. I feel like I didn't get that at all, like during the movie. And yeah, it's like him and his aunts. That was a good moment. And then with Janet, I think the Janet storyline, yeah, like that was one of the more interesting things for me in this movie. I think because that was a character I really didn't know like anything about her before her explanation, I guess, for this movie. I knew that she was in the quantum realm. I feel like I just don't have much attachment for her, like being Hank's like counterpart from like the comics or anything like that. But in this movie, just having those moments of her really having this like whole situation that she went through and just kept her from her family, and then she just like was
big hero
hesitant
play.
Sorry?
big hero play she made. She
Big
could have
hero
went
play.
back and see the daughter, but that's what cost like another 10, 15 years down there is stopping Kang, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So that's like a really big character moment, I think.
Mhm.
Just her being able to have that decision, like that's a big hero play in my book. So I thought all that was good, and just her overall performances were really, really good. And that was something that I remember in the trailer, like especially when they're setting up the quantum realm like portal, and like she was just freaking out at them, and it just seemed really
What are you
weird
doing?
on the trailer. Yeah, it's like you're going to that's for the quantum realm. Turn that off. Like it was just really weird. So it was nice to get like the whole scene
Yeah.
because it was a lot more palatable. Of like she kind of knows what's going on because they asked a question about the quantum realm, but she didn't realize that they were sending a signal. So once that happened, that's when she really like hits the emergency stop. It was
She
just in
didn't
the
handle
trailer.
that
It was
very
really
good.
weird.
You don't just rip a fucking cord out of a fucking quantum realm device.
It's like,
No.
Grandma, I worked on that for so long.
The whole family, all they had to do is have a sit down conversation. Because, yeah, like Kirk said, Michelle Pfeiffer, of course, she's white gold. You can't, you know, she's always going to deliver 10 out of 10. Let's get her back as Catwoman. But the fact that she didn't tell him about Kang, which to me, I feel like pretty big detail to leave
Yeah.
out. This conqueror of like could be Thanos level, worse than Thanos threat. So there's that.
I'm
She didn't.
sorry to cut you in. I'm picturing like Hulk falling down in Infinity War through the Sanctum and being like, "I'm good, nothing wrong here.
Yeah.
There's no one out there. We're okay."
So you have that where she's not telling them, and then you have her husband behind her back working on quantum tech and talking with the quantum realm, this thing that cost her like, and your marriage decades and decades. And he's like, "Oh, I should have mentioned something." It's like, yeah, you should have. Like, I didn't. It was very strange that they're like keeping this from her and just like give her a break. She just got back, no, and they're on her ass. Like, you just wouldn't talk about it. It's like, what, like, like, why would you want to talk about it? Like, it fucking was like, she even stated like, "Hey, I want to do this." Granted, again, she should have talked about like the main bad thing.
Everyone's
but
at fault. Everyone
everyone's at
sucks
fault,
in this
yeah.
situation.
Cassie made that shit. The only one not at fault is Paul Rudd, Ant-Man, because he just happened to be there, you know. Even though I was not a really big fan of the stuff they did with him at the beginning, of him being like kind of too big for his bridges, and I didn't like that they gave him some sort of complex where he didn't want to help the little people out for a little while, and he's like, "Oh, that's just like, never mind, Cassie, like we just got to get home." It was very. It just felt like they forced that character back in a box that he didn't need to be in. You know, like the whole book was about the little guy, and he talks about the little guy, but then we're helping the little guy. From the character we met from Ant-Man to the now, I feel like it didn't match up to me. I feel like we lost a little bit. Luckily, the movie ended, and we got back to where he was, but it was a weird detour for me.
I'll go with some other details here about some of these Ant family characters. I want to talk about Janet a bit more. I'm just because I liked most of what's going on, but I just feel like the last, I'll say 20% of just, I guess, her cumulative scenes in the movie, I feel like they didn't really decide where they wanted to land with her. They had all these ideas of she's in the quantum realm for all these years, and I didn't know if they wanted to make it seem like she was a failure to the people down here, that she let them down, or if that was them unjustly blaming her for things that she couldn't really control because Kang is so powerful, or if they were trying to set it up that she's just kind of like a coward, right? She just abandoned these people and let them get fucked up by Kang and his crew of people. And then so I was curious, like, okay, I feel like they're going to try and make her have like a savior moment at the end where she saves the day or maybe sacrifices herself or something. So ultimately, I think that's where I'm landing, is I just don't know what the ending of the character is. I feel like they didn't really give her one. Do you guys have any like thoughts on that kind of idea? Like, what is her arc here? Because there's definitely something, but it just feels incomplete to me.
Yeah, that's a good point, because they definitely put her in that situation where, like, although she's a hero, like, stopped Kang, she didn't really see it through. Like, she was clearly fighting him and like rebelling, but then Hank just shows up and she just takes that ticket to paradise, gets the fuck out, and just completely
doesn't come
forgets about
back.
it, doesn't even want to
Yeah.
talk about it. So yeah, that is a good observation. They put her in this like split situation, and she didn't really feel like we had a satisfying like resolution to that. Like she like as you mentioned, she doesn't sacrifice herself to like save all these people to stop Kang, to like finish her wrong, like making up for abandoning them. I didn't really think about that till you make that observation. But yeah, I think have a little bit of a grievance. Just the fact that they don't come full circle, which I'm so used to like characters having
Because
that.
they're clearly trying something. Because like Hank, like they're not even trying to have an arc from here. It's just like
No.
remember
Ants.
he's very smart. And
Yeah,
it's like
and he likes
okay,
ants.
Okay, sure. If you're not trying anything, I can't blame you for it. But they were going for something with her, and I couldn't really figure out where they're landing. Because Kirkland, we talked about this when we were doing our predictions just last week. We were talking about deaths. We're like, okay, and I brought this up, and we were talking about this. Like, man, either Hank or Janet, one of them's dying for sure. One or both of them are dying. And I'm looking at this, and like they really try and force an emotional death in this movie, and it works 0%. And I felt like, well, what would be the difference between switching around a couple things at the ending and having her like die as a savior doing this? Or I don't know if it would really work for Hank, because he just is being a goofy guy in this movie, just kind of goofing around, talking about ants and how smart he is and stuff, and talking down Scott every time any chance he gets. But yeah, I'm just like, I don't even know where they're trying to set the trajectory for Janet, because like come Avengers time, how much time do you have for like not just Ant-Man and Wasp in these movies? Is she gonna really be in there? Are we gonna wait for Ant-Man 4 to get more of her story when it feels like she didn't really even have a conclusive moment for this?
No, I feel like in Kang Dynasty, Kang's gonna take her out. That's gonna be one of the heroes.
Why
we
not do
lose
it
early
here?
It should be better here, I would say.
I agree.
It's a
with
way
you.
better setup. Like we have to live with those stakes, and like, dude, Kang's coming, and he already fucked up like these very strong characters, right?
Yeah, I have no retort for other than I guess I feel like it's the Majors thing where I feel like Pfeiffer raises the materials for his performance and the dialogue. Like I buy her, but same thing with the middle of her conversation with Murray, and we'll get there as far as like them trying to paint her off as like a hero, but then someone that deserted them, didn't know what the whole thing was there because she didn't give the big speech. I thought maybe if you have her give the big speech that Cassie gave, that's the moment that, hey, she left, but she's here now to get everyone together and let's once and for all take down Kang. That wasn't her. She was just locked up. And yeah, no, I actually thought the death was going to happen. Because when we started this movie, like weeks ago too, I was like, no, they're not going to kill her. We just got Janet. Why would they kill her? But the route this movie was going is like, oh yeah, they're going to pull the plug, because I think that would have been the character arc play to do. Even if it's saving Scott at the end, instead of making it Wasp, that she comes out of the portal, she saves Scott, but she dies along with it, right? So no, I think she was just a conduit to get us to know more about Kang. And I like their relationship. I like their scenes. But I think for an actual arc or purpose, the character's missing some. And I think it's just a combo of some bad writing around. So, Taylor, anything? You've been quiet on the family about Hank and both the Wasps.
Yeah, I feel like
Wasp
Hope,
eyes.
like you mentioned this, Kirkland, like the heroic moments that she had, they definitely took a spotlight for me, but there wasn't much in the development side, I guess. She was just there. She's the first one to arrive to bail Cassie out of jail, so obviously they got this pretty good relationship going on. So that's okay. It's missing, but it's okay.
Again, they're just automatically like stepmom daughter. Like there's just a connection there. They
Yeah.
no tension, anything.
Michelle Pfeiffer, yeah, she was fantastic. Like she delivered. I love getting to start out the movie with her and her just like seeing this thing like crash, her little like base in the quantum realm. Very, very cool. But I think that when it comes to Hank, I would have loved to have seen just a little bit more with him. Actually, I should mention too, like seeing Michelle Pfeiffer, like she popped into her Wasp suit when she was fighting, or like grabbed the power generator from Kang there and like flew off. That was pretty cool to see her just whip the suit on there. But yeah, with Hank, I would like to see a little bit more development. I felt like they just kind of like breezed through certain things. I thought it was funny when she was like questioning about the relationship that she had with Bill Murray's character, but I will say my favorite part with Hank was when he was just like the score kicked in here and he's just walking down the platform in Kang's city and the army of ants came in. This is where I felt like it was an RTS game because you had all these factions converging and then here comes the ant like faction. I'm like, man, I feel like this is aces, absolute aces. I
RTS
feel like
crossed my mind too, Taylor, in that moment.
right, like I felt like I was playing like Supreme Commander or
Well,
something
even
like that.
Kang's
like,
people, I'm like, this has Protoss energy. Like, it's got the blue crystals and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
this
I
is
had circling
StarCraft right
energy
here.
when the ants were storming. through.
Yeah, exactly.
the brief bit of dialogue from Hank when he's talking about how his ants came in, they were here for thousands of years, and they built like a stage 2 civilization, and it's just cutting to them building up. I was laughing so hard. I fucking love that so much. It was so perfect.
There was like 3 guys behind me that like they laughed for like the most like for the reason that it was ridiculous. It was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like that was the type of laugh that they had, and it like I'm not gonna lie, like that crossed my mind too, because it's like of course we're just having this super cut that they basically went through what Gandalf did to become Gandalf the White. He's like he lived every single day as if it was a moment, and then they just became this like super powerful race that's just like lived thousands of years, and it's just like what? Like, okay, that's so fucking random, but all right. I like that was in there because it was so ridiculous, and like maybe that's one of those things that because of all the points that we brought up, where it's like this movie is very weird. It makes very weird decisions, and maybe it just I credit that to being a part of the quantum realm because it is just a weird concept. Maybe that's just the way that I took it, and that's why I'm able to take it a little more positively. But yeah, I agree with you. It's just bonkers. It's ridiculous, like having some of these sequences on screen, and ants being one of them. And that was how they defeated Kang the Conqueror. Was just the fact that they just tripped out and like fucking went through a full, I don't know, cerebral moment of just realizing intelligence, and then they just come through, and it was weird.
That scene of just
They're
Kang
smart
putting up his
creatures.
force field and just fighting. I like that, but yeah, just like the ants, like unending wave after wave after wave, just taking.
They weren't smart enough
just
to
when,
apprehend him, though. They're like, we roughed him up a bit. I think we're good.
They just carried him off. Like I felt like it's just
I
made
think
me
we're
laugh.
to imply that Kang fought his way out of there. It's like
I would think so,
the,
yeah,
Like the
'cause,
ants
like-
can only do so much. They can damage him, but they can't kill him.
Like,
you
all right,
know?
he's got enough.
I think they
Or
left
he's had
him.
enough.
They left him.
That's
Bad
my
Hansen. They left that guy. I guess he kind of got defeated in the end, but I think that Kang is coming back. He's just shrunk. So like he's somewhere getting big
yeah.
and shrunk, big and
That makes
shrunk.
sense.
Like I
Comes
think
back
that's-
as a MODOK.
Big
fuck.
me,
Well,
little me moment.
I want to talk about MODOK.
Sorry.
'cause-
Okay. Actually,
Okay.
before we do MODOK, one last thing is for Wasp. I think one of the weak things for me in this was surprisingly, I felt like the chemistry between Hope and Scott was just completely absent. I've liked their relationship. In the first movie, you know, it's more of a friendship, and at the end, they're kind of getting into that. I just watched the second movie again in the last week here, and I really like. It starts off on the rocks, right? Because he just got back from Civil War time, and they're mad at him for taking their suit and all this stuff. So it takes a bit, but then like I really like their dynamic by the end of it. In Endgame, there's not a lot there, but it's still like I think they have this natural chemistry, but I just felt like it was completely lacking here. They are largely split up in this movie,
Yeah.
doing different stuff, and the scenes they are together do end up, for plot reasons, having to be fight scenes. But for me, when she comes through the portal and they shrink, you know, big whatever they do to Kang, put him in that little thing, and then they have this moment where they like embrace. And I was like, "Where's the kiss?" You know, like I want like a nice juicy kiss. It
He
just
was-
felt like
he was bleeding from the mouth. He can't be kissing her that way.
I don't know. I feel like this guy almost died. This is like the love of your life. Like,
Nah, you don't do
to me,
it.
it just felt like it felt like there was some chemistry there. It felt like Cap and like Black Widow, though. It felt like that to me. Like felt like an embrace they would do. It didn't feel like these lovers who have just gone through this crazy moment together. So that was a bit of a weak point for me between them. I don't know if you guys felt that. But they also just didn't have a lot of scenes to
I think
show it off, I
yeah.
guess, but it was definitely something I was looking for in this, knowing that like we're going into this movie and they're in a great spot in their relationship. I was very excited for that dynamic, and we just didn't really get it.
I think that's what it is for me. Is they just didn't have enough time together. I think the scenes they were together were fine, but there's not many scenes of them just set. Like other than her saving him in the weird quantum realm trippy scene, and then at the end when they're hugging and kissing. Is there any other scenes where they're just alone? I guess at the beginning when they're drinking on the pier, but that's like a quick cut, right? Like majority of the movie, even when they're together, they're with the family members. So I feel like it just it's very much like him and Cassie, just a lack of, and him and Cassie are together longer, but the problem is it's a lot of action scenes. I think it's just the scenes that they were placed in together for me is why there felt like something was lacking. Because I agree with that, but I think it's just that's almost the movie overall, right? Because in the real world they get to have these fun scenes and talk and bond. We're here when they're fighting a bunch of things, and the guy that's reading their brain with bad jokes is popping off every fucking minute and stuff like that. There's just no time. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the chemistry was lacking in this one for me because I like by the end I was definitely looking for the kiss, but like when they just said like, "Oh, I love you," and they're like embracing there, I like forgot that it was like even a relationship dynamic, which is strange because we've had like 2 movies of them having this, and again, as you mentioned, the
Purely
first
platonic.
one, they're just kind of
Yeah.
friends.
They're
But-
asexual, both of them.
We just didn't get like a lot of moments of them on like even having a moment other than like the saving or like her saving him in the big core sequence, but like that was also just like your partner like saving you, like that was like his his partner in crime saving him in that moment. So by the time we got to the end, because we didn't even have a kiss, but they're just like, "I love you." Yeah, it seemed weird. It was almost like a reminder in my head, like, oh yeah, like they're a couple, like that's actually a thing. But even though I didn't feel it naturally, it is very weird because I have felt that chemistry on screen. So to not get it here, like it's probably one scene that could have fixed that too, but we just didn't get that because maybe
Big
they felt they
Icarus sex
wanted.
scene like that.
Yeah.
Wasp.
So yeah, misstep there.
Anything to add to there? Move on.
I felt like there was passion in those "I love yous" there. I was just like, they put their foreheads on each other. It's like, "I love you, Hope." It's like,
First time
I
they
love
said
you
it.
too.
You know?
Like, just it
Big
was
step.
good.
I'm
It was
happy
good.
that
Yeah,
you
and
had
he's
that
just
moment.
fucking coated in blood. It was just gushing out of him. So.
It was weird because like he got fucked up and was bleeding, but then in that like the next scene, it's as if they just like had like a towel and just like wiped him with like
The goo
pink
guy
food
came
coloring or
back
something.
and
like
took the
like it
blood.
didn't look like blood to me. It looked like someone just got
Mm.
dunked in the Kool-Aid tank or something. It was weird because it's not even like we had a moment where it was like 5 minutes from the time he just got the shit kicked out of him. Like it wasn't that long, and I don't think like I saw him wipe his face or anything. It was just like a coat of red. It was very, very bizarre to me in that scene because it looked so different from the blood he had on him when Kang actually hit him. But
Well, listen, when you're on the west side of the quantum realm, blood works differently. There,
Of course, yeah.
Naturally.
blood
It dries
flows.
differently.
Yeah, it dries differently, sticks differently. You know, but yeah, you want to talk about different because I don't know. I've heard Dylan respond, so I want to read the room here. And you know, it's funny because I do think this is one of the most diverse things because I've seen both takes of people absolutely hating MODOK, absolutely loving MODOK. I can say that I am on completely the absolutely loving MODOK. I think they nailed MODOK. MODOK is a fucking weird, goofy ass character, and that's exactly what they made him here, was a weird, goofy ass character. Like I thought they did everything right. Everything but Taylor's line of "I'm not a dick." That didn't work for me, but everything else. My favorite line, I did not laugh much in this movie, but my favorite line, and maybe one of my favorite lines in the MCU is, "At least I got to die an Avenger." And then everyone's pause, and Scott's just like, "Yeah, you're in. I guess you're in." And like, "I'm an Avenger." And just like, so everything they did with Darren, the jokes, like Darren, like, other than the "I'm not a dick" line, I would have been fine with him turning at the end. Is it weak? Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's just one speech, but I kind of take it as like, he's not all there. He's just looking for a friend. They have him be very like Hades and Hercules with his 2 little guys. Like Kang is abusing MODOK, right? So I thought it was a home run. I'm on Team MODOK. I loved everything they did. Was it to see his face at first, like take me out at first? I'm like, yeah, but eventually I just went with it because every time he was on screen, like that was the joke of like, you just look fucking awful. So, but Dylan, you were on the other side of this, it sounds like.
Yeah, none of these scenes worked for me. I don't know what I was expecting from MODOK, right? Because we saw him in the trailer, but it was like you see a quick glimpse. I don't think he even has a line of dialogue, right? So you don't really know what the expectation is going to be. And I don't know too much about the MODOK character necessarily, but yeah, just none of the comedy worked for me. Like the pep talk from Cassie, "Don't be a dick," as you mentioned. Like, God, that was some of the most cringe dialogue ever for me. And yeah, like the fact that this movie's swelling emotional sad music build up death of the movie is this fucking guy. Like, that to me is such a huge miss, because if they had done it and like maybe it was maybe they did it in a comedic way. I don't know. Maybe it would
I
work.
feel
Maybe
like they did though, because like all the other
to
characters
me, I
were
don't know. Like I
cracking
feel like the
jokes
music
at
and
'em.
stuff. Like I feel like they did have the jokes, but they were also trying to make it like they needed that in this movie. They needed that emotional moment, and that was the only thing they had. So they tossed it in there as well along with this. So it was just like a mix of stuff. I also didn't find any of those lines particularly funny, which is part of it too. But the other thing I just found so strange was like the name drop of MODOK and what it stands for and why we got that explanation like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, who is this for? Like for the people who know comics and stuff, we know what MODOK stands for. So it's like, okay, you do it once as like a nod, like, oh, that's what it means or something like that. But then we just have it like multiple times. I'm like, are they just trying to teach the like casuals what
Maybe.
this name is, even though he's dead and he's not going to come back? So it doesn't matter. Like I asked Muds when we got home as a thought experiment, I'm like, what do you remember what the acronym stands for? She's like, oh, I have no idea. So if that was their goal, I think it was a complete failure because it's like, who cares? So I don't know what. None of it worked for me, and it was just, oh god, I hated it so much. It was so cringe. That to me was like the Rick and Morty kind of like bad Rick and Morty writing of this. This was such a weird addition to the movie. Bad weird.
Your protege
Yeah.
has changed a lot, huh?
I'm very much to the positive side for this character. I think like for me, like other than like the death sequence, because as you said, Travis, that was like the best line in the movie. I think when he's like gonna die in Avenger, and also just like Paul Rudd's like body language off it, like he was really
So
executing
good.
that so well. Like for me, it was mostly just people reacting like in a shocked way to him. I think that was like the funniest thing to me because that was my reaction. Like when the mask comes off and it's just him, it's just like whoa. Like did we see this in the trailer? Because I don't remember this at all.
Yeah,
This
you
is-
did see
this
a
looks
shot
very
of his
weird.
face. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think because it was so weird, I didn't fully like digest it, and then like he wasn't on screen much, so he would like put on like the killer mask, and then like come back, and he would just like reveal it again, and it would just be like, fuck, this guy's weird, and then the characters on screen are like saying exactly what I'm thinking. So yeah, for me that was great. I love when just like his scary voice too when he's like approaching Hank, and it's
Long time no see.
long time no see. Remember me? And then like, fuck, this is just Michael Douglas, like peak of this movie when he's like, oh shit.
What the shit happened to you, Darren? Yeah, Michael Douglas. Like, as much as I do think he was checked out sometimes, he still can deliver a line. Like, I actually like the line too, and he's like, "You read my book, every damn word." Like, he still got some, but yeah, when he's like, "What the shit happened to you?" Like, oh my god,
Yeah.
so good.
So for me, that was great, and also like the explanation of like how he was made. I think that was like a perfect explanation. Like he was shrinking, and his head just didn't fully shrink, so therefore he looks like this. It's like, damn, that makes more sense than like what the comic book version of MODOK is, which I don't know, so don't ask me. But I just feel like that is the best
claim.
explanation to have for it, where he was just shrinking and his head looked that way.
He has like
I-
5 different origins. They always change
Okay,
it and
there you go.
stuff like that.
I like when
We
he
did
comes
get-
out of the goon, he just has his bare ass there.
Yeah,
That
we
was
got to see
funny.
MODOK ass.
Yeah.
A bold play. I'm very happy about that. Hopefully in the DVD cut you see MODOK cock as well too. Not MODOK cock. That's something else too. But I was caught off guard to see MODOK's ass there. Like we've seen it all, but see, and that's where I thought between, because they at one point called them baby legs, and even though I think it's kind of a rip off, the death scene when they're playing the music, everyone was joking. I felt like they kind of took some things from Deadpool 2, because they do that same thing with Deadpool 2, where they have sad music playing, he's dying, everyone's kind of making jokes, and they talk about him having baby legs, and MODOK had baby legs. So I feel like there was a couple of jokes that were very similar to Deadpool 2. I've also just watched it recently, so it's in the mind. But yeah.
And then the last thing they'll say is I liked like the purple effect that he had on his weaponry and everything, and like that killer mask that was sweet, because again I obviously like forgot that I saw his face on screen, so for a moment I'm like, is that really the face that we're gonna get? Is just this, like killer robot face or whatnot? I think that's a big miss there, but it was nice that we had both his like kill mode version, which was looking sleek and scary, but then just the big Darren face on screen, that was probably scarier actually.
I can't wait till the DVD hits and we get memes. Like I'm ready for the MODOK memes. Just because every time that mask opened up and just like big-eyed Darren Cross, and he's just massive. Let's take an ad break and then we'll get Taylor's thoughts on MODOKs. We'll be right back. And we're back. So Taylor, what camp are you in for the MODOK?
I absolutely loved him. I really, really did. My only like saddened thing with him was the fact that he died. It really, really
Yeah,
crushed
it's such
me.
a bummer.
Especially because
Yeah.
he's on my draft list, which is very unfortunate.
Right,
so.
I forgot about that. Damn.
But I'm not in the
having a
negative.
week.
I'm still in the positive. Still in the positive.
It's okay. It's already over. Remember, we lost. So.
Yeah, I think that the moment he like appeared and just looked super, super cool, like I was very curious how you do something like MODOK as a character in the MCU, and by God, they did it. And again, I don't know what he's like in the comics. All I know is what he's kind of like. I think I remember him in Ultimate Alliance 2. That's really my closest association with him. Well, he's in 2 as well, wasn't he?
Is he?
I thought he was in Ultimate Alliance
He's in
2.
1.
Oh, he's in
is where
1.
Yeah.
Isn't it like with like the underwater or something like that?
It's somewhere around them because he makes you do quizzes, and every time you get something wrong, it takes down your health bar and stuff like that before you fight him. But like him being like the little schemer and like the little like yes sire, like he's like that a lot of the times. Like oh sorry, like they nailed that aspect of he is just kind of like this Weasley character.
Yeah, like he's being so crazy and just kooky, like Darren doesn't exist anymore or whatever. Like he's just trying to prove that he's something else, but you just don't buy it because he's still like talking like he's Darren. Like
You're like a brother
man
to
is
me.
like Darren, can you hear me? MODOK, yeah. Like, it's just so fucking outrageous. And then again, leading up to that Avengers line when it's the back-to-back double whammy that caught me off guard because he's like, Scott, I always considered you a brother. He's like, what?
And he touches him on the
His little
touches
hand,
his
yeah.
face.
That's why I just liked it because I just feel like he's gone. Like his brain is just mentally compromised and he's out there.
It was so like you stack on like no, what does he say? Like it's not looking good for me. He's like he's coughing up all over Scott. There's all this vomit all over him. It's so good. Holy shit.
Even Hope when she's like, Darren, what happened to you? He's like, and then Paul Rudd's like, it's just a long
It's a
story.
long
I'll
story,
tell you."
yeah. 'Cause Darren's like,
tell you
you
later."
changed your hair, Hope.
Yeah, it's like a lot changed for you. Oh,
Big change.
man. Big change. Yeah,
I
RIP
definitely-
MODOK. Hopefully we get some what if episodes,
I hope so. Oh shit. I definitely was not opposed to like the dick line because like when he's got the little legs and the little hands and he's like, that's all I've ever known. I'm a dick. He's just,
Look at me. I'm a
Look at
dick.
me. I'm a dick.
And I
That
feel
really
like they're
got me.
trying to apply like he looked like a penis, like with his head and stuff.
Oh.
They didn't go that far, but I feel like he did that when he's like, "Look at me, I'm a dick." Like I feel like they were trying to, and yeah, I wish
You guys
I
are
didn't
making
even
that
yell,
funny
but-
for me now because like I had like 3 scenes that were like the most cringy for me and that was one of them, but now it's like the fact that you're pointing out he kind of looked like
He's just so
He
like
did.
vulnerable. His little hands and little feet. But yeah, it just
That's the Rick
it-
and Morty writing for you.
That's
right
the Rick
there.
and
Oh,
Morty.
yeah.
It still worked on me too because I wasn't expecting it when he like went and blasted the shield and he's like, Kang, I'm
his
not a
big
dick.
face, and
His
Kang's
big
like-
face in there. Yeah, Kang's like,
King
what the
just
fuck's
takes
going
him
on?
out. Like he didn't do anything to Kang. Like Kang just owned him every fucking time. Like I hope in Secret Wars that he comes back and we get Kang versus MODOK 2 as like a mini, and then Kang kills him again. But oh fuck, that's the what if episode I need. It's just like Peter and the chicken from Family Guy, but make it Kang and MODOK, and they're just fighting for centuries. in
I'm down
different
for MODOK
multiverses.
in What If. I don't want him in Secret Wars. Please don't waste a minute or a cent
I wanna-
of budget.
It could
on
happen.
That,
It could
please.
happen. With
I
Secret
want to
Wars.
see other characters interact. Cause like
Yeah,
every
I
character
wish
that we
Downey was
had-
around. Fuck for MODOK.
I do
Oh
too.
my
Like
God.
all our characters were already familiar with Darren and who he was and before, which was great. But I want to see other characters just like, holy shit, like there's a big head, like wow.
And the fact we kill him off before we got Deadpool in the MCU is also a travesty as well. You know how much fucking fun we could have had there. But
yeah.
Hopefully he's not dead. Hopefully the Quantum Realm, maybe on the west side, he didn't die there. On the left side, he could have. But
Over the bridge, West
over the
Kelowna.
bridge. Yeah. What else? Where we want to go? We've talked about the family. We've talked about Kang. We've talked about MODOK.
Forgot to shout out Kang's suit. I thought like it looked really good. I
Prime.
love purple and green, man. Oh, Green Goblin colors, like it just
Joker colors.
pops
And one
so
of the
well.
Kang variants looked very Green Goblin-y kind of too.
Oh, like the one at the end with like the alien face.
Yeah, like one
sorta?
that was like up in the.
I remember
up
that
in the
one.
bleachers.
Yeah, there was a few that dropped too that were wearing like the same like King and Conqueror armor, so it just kind of made me.
Well, the very
wonder.
last one that we saw too, I think, is kind of like a. That's kind of a reference to what Kang actually looks like, is what I was getting the vibe of. He had like that because Kang's like actually an alien, right? Usually.
No,
Is it? I feel like the look I've seen of Kang is like he's full alien mode.
no, it's always a blue mask. Like the
Oh,
blue,
okay.
it's
So
always it's always the same thing that he has here as the visor. So, I guess we didn't talk about. We have like the. I didn't really like it. I guess we touched upon it a little bit. Like I think Kirkland nailed best. Like just meeting different aliens from like Guardians stuff like that. But when we met the people, like I said, I was not a fan of the mind reader. I can't remember his actual name. I know he's a character from the comics. Yeah, just any of the people there. Like the broccoli joke didn't work for me. The bar joke didn't. Like none of that stuff worked for me. Like everyone knows what I'm gonna say. None of the Bill Murray stuff worked for me. And I here's the thing: where I'm not even the biggest Bill Murray fan, but I can sometimes go, okay, I get why people find him funny. I think the material they gave in this movie wasn't really working. I didn't feel like it was anything that was good, and I don't know why they even put the fucking asshole in their movie. But okay, they insinuated that him and Hope had a relation, or him and Janet had a relationship. I guess it was like a fun callback to he eats that little drink thing, and that's what ends up killing him. I guess like that whole that sequence was just made because they
Did
got
he
Bill
die
Murray.
in that?
I think so,
Did he
right?
die
Yeah,
there?
pretty fucked
Oh, yeah,
up.
he got
Yeah. So that sequence to me was just because they had Bill Murray and they need something. We almost didn't need any of that dialogue because it didn't lead anywhere. Just like, well, she knows a guy, and like literally in the same scene, they're like, well, she left with him. And then she's like, yeah, but I also fought against him. And it's like, okay, then what the fuck was the point of the scene? Like, was she with Kang or was she not? I didn't know. This
Yeah.
conversation didn't enlighten me anymore. Other than it's so funny, like, he's saying this, and Michelle Pfeiffer's acting very worried. And Janet or Hope's just like, you're a liar. My mom's a hero.
Yeah.
It's like-
Oh God, I
it's like-
hated that. That was awful.
It's like, can you see your mom? Like she's completely, she's reacting in a way that clearly she's caught off guard, not comfortable, and she's like, "You're lying." Like it doesn't like you haven't even asked your
Mother
mom
would
yet.
never
You
do
know
that.
nothing. She literally lied to you about this world conqueror, and just like, "You're a liar. This isn't my mom." So I didn't like anything about the people, the interactions. I think that all could have been done better. Even my nickname, the Goo, was like. Great. We had David Dastmalchian, but like I didn't like the humor and like what I don't even know. Like I liked the idea of okay, this goo you can all just speak the same language, but yeah, just the villages, everything. This was really taking me out of it, and jokes didn't work, plot point forward didn't work. I feel like the pacing was off. Just nothing really worked with these colonies for me.
I like the holes joke. That one got me because I actually counted in my head when Paul Rudd counted because that like brief moment where there was like nothing happened for like 2 seconds.
That was good. That was good. Oh, I mean, I liked his joke. I didn't like the moment when the thing gets shot at the end. And he's like, "I have holes now."
Yeah, that
didn't.
He can do that. Could he always do that?
I'm inclined to agree with you, Travis. The one thing is like visually, I actually had a lot of fun looking at these weird creatures. Like there was those two kind of like obsidian like rock looking creatures there. There was some weird funky heads going on. I like the look of the broccoli dude. Like I thought it was fun. I don't know if we needed to see him on 3 separate occasions, but you know, like I thought visually they created some fun looks for characters. But yeah, in terms of like dialogue or anyone of intrigue there, no one that I was really latched onto, and I'm okay if we never see any of them again, which will probably it seemed like they're trying to set up that Gentaro character that she would be like a hero in the
Disney
future
Plus, baby. No.
story or something. But I'm like, I don't know if nothing against that actress or anything like that. I just don't know if I want to go back down there.
I hope it's the same way as in Avengers Infinity War when we just learned that Thanos just killed the entire Nova Corps. I hope that's the same thing when, Kang came out and in the Quantum Realm he killed everyone. Like that's what I hope we get. It's just like 1 or 2 lines of dialogue that Kang just came out and demolished everybody. And another thing I hated about the scenes of them going places, that's the time where most like Hank and Hope just felt like they were around. Like it just was Michelle Pfeiffer walking around the place, and it was just Michelle Pfeiffer talking and dialogue, except Hank would have like an odd line, but it just felt like they were NPCs of like the group of the characters that are with you, but that's not their turn for the story yet. And
Yeah, I agree. I think I wanted a little bit more of like attachment to like the quantum people and like just what they're going through, because I understood why they got displaced because Kang just like took over, and then like I understand why we're meeting them because it's like, yeah, these are the people that just got fucked over by Kang and like they're struggling. This is the like, you know, even Cassie was pointing out to Scott that like these people are in trouble here. Like we kind of need to
Yeah,
help
they're being
them here.
suppressed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I understood like the inclusion there, but I just didn't feel that like super attachment that like, man, like I really want these people to overthrow Kang. Like that just never really happened. I agree with Dylan. I thought the most intriguing thing was just the overall appearance of them. It just, again, like this is where something like a cantina scene, like the first time you watch Star Wars, it's just so fascinating to see just like so many different weird looking individuals like in an area like that. Yeah, there was one person that like their face looked like it was sliced because it was like sections that were just open on their head.
Yeah, that
I
guy was
remember them
cool.
from the trailer too. It's just a really cool look, and I think it's a little bit upsetting if I like, never see just the variety of characters like that again. But I doubt that because we'll probably go to fucking space 631 or whatever, and there's gonna be different aliens again that these visual artists can just get super creative on. So I'm like, I'm not worried about not seeing cool looking individuals again. It's just I think it kind of sucks that like to the earlier point that I didn't feel like I'm gonna be missing a lot if I never see the quantum realm again, which is unfortunate because this is a whole new realm. There's a whole new area. It should be this really like just like this big place that has an everlasting effect on me, that like, oh my god, like the quantum realm, like this place. And unfortunately I just don't really have it. I really like the concept of what the ooze was, because like especially just the way that it was executed. Like you just have them like doing this really creepy like tribal chant at Scott, and again you just have Paul Rudd doing great like reactionary acting where he's just like, what the fuck is going on? I don't know what you're saying. You get like a split moment of Cassie just like blood down her mouth and just like, drink the ooze, and that's like the quick moment that you have, and it's just like chaos. And once he just like starts getting force fed it, you know, it just like transitions that you can hear things. And I thought that execution was really, really cool, and I really liked that. I think the comedy on like the characters, maybe like half of it worked for me, where like, but like it's a little bit of a skewed 50%, because I feel like the 50% that I was laughing made me feel like it was a lot more, because it was hitting me good. But then yeah, there was a lot of cringy lines. I think the holes one at the end didn't work for me, and I think the reason why a lot of the quantum characters humor worked for me was more so when they were bouncing off Paul Rudd, because it was just like Paul Rudd in his wheelhouse, just like having great natural like reactionary humor. And I think when he wasn't there, it was noticeably lesser, which is unfortunate but also fortunate, because Paul Rudd's amazing and can't wait to see more of him. I'm glad he didn't die.
Yep. No, didn't die. Anything else in particular before we get to end credits and final thoughts?
I have a couple nitpicky things, and then I have actually some more positive things, but a couple nitpicks. So I was talking about that Janet and Kang scene where like the throne room, where it's like, what's going on here? Another one that kind of stood out to me was when Cassie's like going through to save this character that I can't remember the name of, and she like shrinks one of the guards and then like embiggens the other one. And then she like shrinks and then is like stealthing away. But then like guards come around the corner and they just don't react to the fact that there's a embiggened like character right in front of them. That stood out to me. The amount of times they do the helmet thing, which, you know, is a very Marvel like just superhero thing where you got to see the actors. But oh my god, it was driving me nuts in this movie how often they took the mask off, put the mask on, took it off, one quick quip, put it back on. Just, really kind of drove me nuts.
I wanted to bring this up because this is not me standing being I am 100% right, but I felt like in the MCU, I thought maybe because I guess they're probably just because we're in the quantum realm, but when they were big, I didn't think they had established you could take the mask off.
I know, that's what I thought too. That was weird, really weird.
So when Cassie
it added
threw
to
that,
your point that it just felt like they were in a normal room, because it like there was no big consequence to that moment.
Because when she took that mask off to say something to Darren, she put it back on. I was like, that's odd. But I was like, okay, well, maybe she has a new suit or something. But I still thought it was like a breathing thing. But then later on when he could do it, I'm like, have I missed something? Because I feel like every time we've seen him in the movies as Giant Man, it always has the helmet on. So, yeah, that was a strange thing.
And even
for
just
me.
like having to get used to the quantum realm was, I feel like, a concept we had before, where the first time Scott went there, it like fucked up his mind and stuff. And then in Endgame, it made a bit more sense because he had his suit on when he was down there for those 5 hours. But yeah, just the fact that everyone was like good and they then had no trouble with it. I know they were working with the tech, but when they got sucked in there, it was not on their terms. Like they were not ready for that.
Yeah.
So that felt a bit like I can let it go, but obviously they didn't really want to go into a plot reason why that was the case. They're just like, we'll just make it fine.
Like I said, between that and the fight with Kang, our main characters have massive plot armor because I would not understand why Kang would never leave. You have a gun or a wrist rocket that can just literally dissolve people. Why does he not lead with that? And then later on, he does try to shoot our heroes, but that's the first thing you go to when they're just standing there. Why are you not leading with that? But
that moment, you you just reminded me of this when we were talking about Cassie earlier, when he was like threatening Ant-Man by like fucking up Cassie in that moment. I don't know if he was like pulling her apart or something. In my mind, I thought that was actually gonna go an entirely different way. That he was actually just gonna like murder Cassie right there and then like bring her back or something. But like just have that like really intense moment that like you just saw Kang ripped apart like Cassie right in front of you. Like I feel like that would have just been. Again, like it would have been a little bit more of a mature moment, but like we're already in that area. Like we saw Doctor Strange. Like I feel like MCU's getting to that point where they're
ripping
really
her guts out.
I guess they just couldn't.
They can make it PG-13.
I guess they just couldn't do it because if he does that, you'd be like, well, why the fuck can he get out of here, right? Like that was the point that he doesn't have that power to control time right now. He needs to get it back. So I think that's the only plot reason why is he couldn't do it. But I agree with you, and I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. He does something like that in the future. Like how we got that. Remember in the Loki show when they kept having Sif come by and kick Loki in the nuts, and it was like a punishment. I could see him. Well, that's tough because they kind of did that with Thanos and Vision, though, right? Where he kills Vision in front of Wanda, and then he brings Vision back and kills him again. So it's tough because you don't want to have him be a cop here, right? So
that scene was in my mind during that moment because I thought that's exactly how it was going to play out. But also at that point, I didn't know what full extent of Kang's powers was. I feel like I still don't. I know he's got good stamina. That would be my first guess.
Tech, like all the stuff he does is just tech based. Like he doesn't have power stuff like that. Some of those variants, sure,
fortitude.
But yeah, exactly. Buff as fuck. That's also an attribute. Like
those
they show the guns, man. Like his arm sleeve ripped off. It's like go see Creed 3. Yeah, it's like tattooed right there.
They should have. Oh, I would have loved that.
In my timeline, I'm a famous Hollywood actor named Jonathan Majors, gonna fight Killmonger and stuff like that. Yeah, no, that actually the fighting scene got me more hyped for Creed. I'm like, man, we're gonna see him box in a couple weeks. I can't wait. So,
I'll go ahead, Taylor.
I was just gonna say, you guys reminded me of something with his arm sleeve coming off. When Ant-Man was actually going through and having like the copies of himself, and there was that one random one in the Baskin Robbins uniform. Fuck, that got me. I don't know what it was. Like this, even then, after you think you've forgotten about him, but he's like climbing up, and then Baskin Robbins Paul Rudd reaches down and pulls him up. I really got a kick out of that.
Why are you guys all dressed like this?
I was gonna bring that up as one of the moments I did like. I mean, Paul Rudd, tons of charisma. When you get 100 Paul Rudds in one spot, the charisma multiplies. I really liked that scene. We had seen it in the trailer, but I don't think we ever saw any like dialogue from it. We just saw like some of the trippy sequences. But it's not like the most inventive writing by any means. But the idea that they were all kind of bickering, but then the commonality of wanting to save Cassie is what made them work together like a bunch of ants to get him to rise up there. Even though that didn't work and Wasp had to save the day, I liked it. I thought that was a pretty well done scene. So shout out to that moment.
Visually, it looked really good too.
Yeah, and when the one was like threading apart, like once again trailer, but it looked cool. I really liked that.
I love the line too. It's like we already got a giant man that just got sliced by this thing, and then there's another one. He's like running with Scott. He's like, maybe it'll work now. He just like goes large and just like spaghettifies. That was hilarious. And the other thing that I really laughed in the Baskin Robbins thing was good, but I didn't laugh until he's like climbing up. And like this isn't even really funny, but just in the moment I thought it was hilarious. There's just like random ones starting to fall off, and I get it, like they're all just kind of like teetering, and like it's not really a solid structure, but like I don't know why. You just had Paul Rudd climbing, and there's just a bunch of different Paul Rudds like falling off the tower. There's like very, very good. I like that a lot.
Did you guys? Because we've been looking at this title, Quantumania. I did not realize that Ant-Man is spelled out like in order within the word Quantumania. until they did that in the credits at the very beginning of the credits. They had like Ant-Man, and then like the other letters came forward. But like, look at my Quantumaniac nickname, like Ant-Man. The letters are all there. If you add like
I
take the
didn't even
U
think
and
about
yeah, and
it's that U that throws it off.
yeah, the U is in there, but like I had not noticed that, even though we've been looking at this title. So that's a fun little detail. I really liked that when they kind of showed that off. I wanted to bring up a Kang thing. This could probably relate to some of the post-credit stuff, but maybe
save the Kang thing. Yeah,
sure. But maybe we should. I'm curious what you guys thought about what they did with this kind of like the very ending scene of the movie before the post-credits with Paul Rudd. Scott is kind of going back and forth. He's like, okay, wait, what was that thing that Kang had said? That someone's gonna come and kill everyone or something like that. And he's like, oh, actually, it's probably nothing. I think we got him. And then he's thinking about it some more, and they kind of just ended it in a bit of a cliffhangery way. But what did you guys think of just like the way that was shot? I hope the editing was a bit strange, but also just that idea. I'm curious how you guys took that.
I was laughing. I actually liked it as far as like he's happy and he just keeps seeing these people like, oh my god, she could be dead. Oh, he's dead. Like, I think it fit with the character. And I think what frustrated me actually, because I thought about the beginning of the movie and the end, I was like, man, I do miss like I guess I did actually love Ant-Man and the Wasp, but like I didn't think I'd miss that type of Ant-Man style. So when I got those, I think that's why I was liking it, because it was like, okay, I got Scott Lang back in like grounded Earth sort of way. So I liked that idea. I liked the cake joke that panned off. Oh, I made it myself. I made a cake since the 90s or whatever it is. But
that guy got a lot more screen time than I was expecting.
Oh, yeah. Movie. I think it kind of fits with Scott Lang to worry about everybody, but to also think, you know what? We probably did it, but I feel like that's not the end, because I feel like he is going to be, we've talked about this before, our Hulk. I guess that we'll talk about again in the end credit with another character that might be, but I think he will be one of the characters to bring up, hey, something. I think what's going to happen is maybe one little thing will happen, and that will finally get him to speak up and go, okay, maybe I am wrong. But I didn't like the ending, as far as I thought something dramatic was going to happen, but then it was just the cake joke, which I'm sure some people liked, but yeah.
I didn't so much like the cake joke, but
no.
For me, I love that moment when, he was just walking all like happy-go-lucky, and then it's just like a really intense like thought comes back, and I liked it because it, reminding the general audience that like Kang is the big bad coming, guys. Like he's not actually gone here. But also like it was just such a great like representation of a character that's just got hit with like anxiety in that moment. Like it's just like it's all very good going, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere it's just like this crippling anxiety, like the world's gonna end. I thought the audio coming in was really good too, of just like an impending doom, and that's essentially what someone that like gets anxiety goes through. Like you get into a fight or flight moment that you just think, even though everything should be fine, you like actually think that it's just not gonna be. So I thought that was fantastic in that moment, because it just really I think showcase what someone could be going through in that moment of like getting that anxiety. Now like the switch there was he's like, no, it's probably fine, and he just like puts the back of his mind. But that's also probably what a lot of people do, in those moments. It's like, oh no, is this gonna happen? Am I gonna be able to make my car payment this month? Like all these things, and it just hits you. But it's just like, no, we're gonna backdoor that right now because I just can't deal with it. And then it comes back to him later on in that moment. So I thought that was fantastic for reminding us that Kang's not gone, and just a really great like execution, I think, on what anxiety could look like. So yeah, I really like that moment.
Cool. Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. I like your explanation there, Kirklin, especially with the anxiety angle of it. I guess the one thing for me was just the element of like, okay, Kang said this thing to you that what did he say? Like, was it either if you kill me or if you let me, or if I get out of here, something's bad is gonna happen? What was it? Was it that if you
kill me? I think it was if I don't get out of here, something worse is gonna happen. His pitch is that he's the lesser of two evils. That like, okay, I might be bad, but whatever out there is even worse. So
I guess I just found that funny. It's like, that seems like a very generic bad guy thing to say when you're about to die, is to make some crying plea like that to the hero, and maybe they won't kill you. So the fact that once again he's like can't conceive that Kang could be, he's not lying, but I feel like that's a very, if I was in his position, I'd probably like, oh, this guy's probably lying to me to try and like not get killed right here. So I feel like that part of it is a bit goofy, but I guess he had proven already in this movie that he maybe a bit gullible in that way, especially towards Kang. So I
He knows his word's not his honor, though. So he should have thought it was a lie.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, exactly.
Our
Do you think,
words are
uh,
a bond.
Do you think Hope was just walking along, having a good day, and then just the anxiety hit her? It's like, oh my god, what if my mom is a liar?
No, she still thinks she's gonna go to the grave and say that fucking Janet's not a liar. No, it's all Kang. You're lying.
My mom's a
a
good person.
hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the way she said that line was so. Yeah.
I
Travis,
think
you're
there's
like
so much
nailing it
sass.
with the performance.
And I actually
Adrian.
don't think she said my mom's a hero, but she said some line equivalent to that, like she wouldn't do that or something. But like it felt like that in this moment. Like I hate to say it, but it felt like a real Karen type of moment where it's like, what do you know? You don't even know shit about the quantum realm. Like this guy just flew on a fucking ship and he has a whole armor. Like he might be like. I don't know. Weird.
You made
moment.
that canon though in my mind. It's the same thing now. Like when I look back at Eternals, I truly think that's how that scene went. When she's like Icarus, but that's
It's
not
just
probably
quiet
how
and score. That's all it is. Yeah. My mom's a hero, and you're a fucking liar, Bill Murray.
throws her drink at him or something.
Yeah. Just kills him on the spot. Yeah. Anyone else want to call my mom a liar? Hanks and Jan's like, "What did you raise while I was gone? My daughter's a cold-blooded murderer." Oh fuck. Anything else there, Dylan?
No, just some Kang things, but they can kind of get rolled into the post-credit stuff,
Sure.
so that's fine.
So yeah, anything else, non-final thoughts or post-credits thoughts before we transition to that? All right. Well, if not, we can bring it up after. It's a free country, you know.
It's true.
Final. I just almost laughed about Hope again. Final ad break. We'll talk about post-credits, and then we'll talk about our final thoughts and a rating. So we'll be right back. All right, we're back. So we get our first end credit scene that, yes, as we established at the beginning of this podcast, just broke the MCU draft meter and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But and don't ask me because there's so many variants of Kangs. And there's one important one that you didn't see here, and apparently there might be a second one as well. There's gonna be lots, and this scene. I'm very curious because obviously as a comic book reader, if you watch animated stuff too, there is a Council of Kangs, and there's to prep you guys, there's also Council of Reeds. So I'm sure you're going to meet them one day again because Reed and Kang are related. So they think in very similar ways. The same way Kang has like an evil council, debatable if they're evil. Reed is the same thing. He has a bunch of Reeds that he talks to and like compares ideas with and yada, yada, yada. So I'd heard rumblings about this, but I wasn't sure how over the top they're going to go. And I thought, okay, they're showing us these three. And like I feel like this is a lot to digest for the mainstream audience already. And then they get down there, and it is just a plethora of just Jonathan Majors everywhere. Someone's wet dream, maybe my wet dream that I'm gonna have later on, but just doing a lot of motions. There's one that he literally does just drop like the Green Goblin, he just like does a superhero landing. And they just pretty much set up that, okay, that king is gone. They all were kind of mocking each other for not being the one to kill him, but like, okay, finally he's gone, he's out of our hair, we can proceed with our plan. And they're getting fucking hyped. The other kings in the crowd were just losing it. I liked the scene. I think it was for me it's all about the follow-up with this because I feel like they made it very very comic book, and I'm fine with that. I know what that, but for me, usually the Council of Kings is kind of like what they had at the beginning, where it's very more stoic, it's very more formal, it's very more conversation, where people are just like, "Fucking I'm king," and it was a weird scene. That's all I'll say. And I do wonder how the mainstream audience, like that, to me could be a scene that someone could see this and be like, I might be out. Like it was a very, very weird setup to this idea of, okay, and I like this. Loki, he talks about there's tons of Kangs. This we talk about tons of Kangs. It ends with showing, hey, it's not just this guy talking line. There's literally dozens and dozens of Kangs working together and stuff like that to create a timeline. So what did you guys feel about this? 'Cause I'm sure, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Council of Kangs or anything like that. So this was your first exposure to this idea of this unit working together. And these were the people that exiled our 616 King.
Yeah, like I don't know much about like just the whole meat and potatoes of what King is. Luckily, I've seen Loki and like just podcasting about it. I knew there was going to be many of them, so it wasn't obviously too jarring there. And by this point, I also knew these were the ones that exiled him. I think it also helps though, like throughout the movie, like there was a lot of emphasis of like just showing kind of the I'm gonna use some TVA talk here, but like the trimmings of like the actual timeline and what was going on, and like in my mind, it's like, okay, like there must be so many different versions of like this individual's ideal or ideal
Ideals?
ideals, I guess.
Ideology?
They're yeah, exactly. Their ideology on like what they're trying to achieve. So for me, I didn't think this was too jarring by the end. It was very much a shock. Initially, there was 3. I'm like, all right, I got 3 more Kang points for this. And it's like we got them. They all came, and then it was just like, oh no, I don't know how this is gonna go over. I feel like I'm gonna get disqualified from the draft. But
It should be. Hopefully in Loki they just get fucking nuked, and that'll
Just
be
murk
because
them
you know
all.
someone one year is gonna do this again. They're gonna pick Kang, and at some point all of them are gonna die. It's gonna be the reverse. It's gonna be the negative. So
I chose the right year. But yeah,
Yeah.
like for me, it was also, I think it was, I also just took it in the way of like I was really just trying to see like the different looks of the different types of Kangs and like seeing how
Oh, yeah.
it's one of those things where I'm like I can't wait for like the
lots of
YouTube
Disney Plus
breakdown.
pause. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's
like,
all 68 Kangs.
yeah, and what they mean for the MCU's future.
Yeah, and why you're a fucking loser. Because you
But
didn't
just
know
like
any
the
of
fact
this.
that we had like one with like an alien face or like a blue type alien looking face, and yeah, just the different hypeness, I guess. And we had the stoic ones in the beginning, the other ones that just look more like foot soldiers. So for me, I think the biggest takeaway here is excitement to see how they're utilized. Like I don't want it to just be like a Chitauri, like
Just
fleet of
majors
soldiers.
everywhere.
It's just
Fuck.
majors are just like peons now that we're throwing out. I hope that isn't the case. Clearly, not all of them are going to have good moments to shine here, but I think this is just a really interesting concept. Unfortunately, it's an actor that I am really liking these days. So, yeah, I'm okay with all the majors on screen.
Thank God. Like, imagine we got in some situation where this was like fucking Jared Leto or something. like imagine if we got some actor that were like, man, we are stuck with this guy and multiple versions. Like, sometimes I'm worried. That's how I already feel sometimes when I watch The Flash. Like, man, we're gonna have like 2 Ezras in here. That could be a lot. Like, if someone that didn't like that character, that could be a lot. So with Kang, at least it's good. I do want to see the cut though of him in some room just performing all these different landings, all these. I just want the mega cut of him, just no music, no effects, just interacting with himself. And yeah, hopefully it's out there somewhere.
For myself, I think I'm kind of with you, Travis, where to me this will largely fall on the follow-up to see how I feel about how all this is working. But just in terms of what I was saying way back ago of like, man, all these different versions, he has slight nuances in his performance. And then there is like the rowdy boys or the frat boys of the Kang dynasty as well. But like he is like, I've not seen this actor in much, right? To be fair, but just already seeing his performance between this and Loki and stuff, like just such a great actor that I'm excited for that prospect. I think I am honestly incredibly worried now that I know that this writer is doing Kang Dynasty. Like, honestly, that is a huge wrench in my plans right now.
I don't
now,
think
obviously,
he's going to be alone. I really don't think. By the time that
Right.
movie comes out, I bet you'll have 2 writers on it, or
But
he'll create differences.
even once again, like even in this movie, my favorite stuff is Kang. I think that is
Yeah.
pretty well written for the most part, and like obviously the acting just brings that up to the next level. So there's obviously something in there that's more of a bigger issue, but just in terms of like the story setup of the Kang that we have in this movie of being exiled and this kind of. Yeah, I guess now that he's gone, they can move ahead with their plans. But also the other coin of it, of like they've been keeping tabs on this guy because he is so fucking powerful, and the fact that someone else killed him is like a huge threat to them. I think is really compelling. I really liked that idea. That's to me a pretty great setup. So I liked that element of the character.
And then what's going to happen when he comes back and he's not actually dead, right? Like that's going to be the big thing.
Right.
They think he's gone, but
They're
then
not
he'll
going to be
get them.
hyped.
No, it's going to be the reverse. I think there's a good possibility we get a scene of that Jonathan Majors. That's what I hope it happens in this phase. Just Jonathan Majors kills all these other Kangs and we get Kirklin back to neutral points and stuff. But,
Yeah.
Taylor, your thoughts on this, the Kang, Council of Kangs?
I was not expecting it. I thought it was pretty wild just to see all these rambunctious Kangs and all that. It's making me think this is like in some weird alternate universe or quantum realm. You could have like a Creed 3 setup or Creed 4 setup where
Oh
you have
boy.
Michael B. Jordan in here
boy.
fighting
Oh,
Kang variant,
wow.
and
You're not
there's
wrong.
no other like people in the crowd like random civilians. It's all just like variants of Jonathan
Of
Majors.
King and
Just-
Killmonger.
yeah. Um,
This is your king.
He's not a
You're
liar.
a liar. Yeah. It's just-
Hopes in the crowd. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I want that GIF right now. And start dropping on everything.
With
Yeah.
the sass too that Travis added.
And no one's gonna get it. It's just gonna be a GeekVerse fan thing. But when Disney Plus happens, we're
Anytime
making
S
them
Bubs
good.
posts something from Giant Freaking Robot, I'm just gonna drop that GIF. As
You're
a-
lying.
You're
Your mom's a
lying.
hero.
Yeah.
I feel like there is
Kang's a
if there
hero.
if there was at all any kind of a tie-in, I felt like okay, seeing this Egyptian Kang immediately made me think of Moon Knight, and maybe some connection tie-in might happen there, because that's like, is he like coming from a timeline where it's just that far back in the past, or is it just like a present day timeline where Egypt is still just the dominant like?
No, it's present day, and he just wears that. That's
He just
it.
wears it, yeah.
No, I don't know what that could be. There's so much variance of King. I'm not even gonna try and pick what they're pulling from. I imagine the main one they had, which was like Jonathan Majors, which they had him make it like he had darker skin on. He
The
had, like, a big-
Ronin version.
Yeah, like I don't. I'm sure that's a more prominent version, but I couldn't tell you off of first look and stuff like that. So. And then we get another very King centric again. When I watched this, I'm just like, man, they're just putting everything on this guy to just carry them for like the villain side. We get an end credit scene of it's in the past. I don't know what era are we thinking this is in.
This is
Nikola Tesla.
1800s.
Yeah. I don't
Okay.
know.
So you got that. You got this guy talking. We can hear the voices clearly. Kang. He's saying very similar things and stuff like that. And then we go to the crowd. And Loki's like, well, we'll get to see Loki, which, funny enough, we get to see Loki for the first time since 2019 and on theatrical, because after that, he's just been booed, right? No other end credits, stuff like that. So if you didn't watch Loki, there's someone in the crowd being
People are like,
"Fuck."
"What the fuck?"
Owen
Yeah.
Wilson's in this?
And then Loki's like, that's him. And Owen Wilson goes, you're lying. No, I'm joking. But he's like,
He's a
But he-
hero.
yeah, he's a hero. No, he's like, what do you mean that's the guy? Like, he doesn't look that
invented power.
dangerous. And then Loki just says, no, he's like very dangerous, or the most dangerous of them all. So again, it's a very simple end credit. It did two things as far as one, promotes, hey, go watch Loki this summer. I guess it did three things. Go watch Loki this summer. We had pretty much heard, like Feige had said, the whole cast was coming back, but this is the biggest confirmation that, okay, Majors is also in Loki season 2. Like, we're going to get season. That's great. Can't wait to see what he's doing here. And 3, I still think, even though we can use it as Ant-Man, I think Loki is going to be this saga's Hulk. I think he's going to get back, and he's going to be the one that has all the deets on Kang. And I hope that leads to Loki, even for one movie being on the Avengers, which leads to his actual death. But I think he is the key to getting, I think, everyone connected somehow. And I think that's like a really fun redemption arc for Loki. So very simple end credit scene, but I think it's a smart one, because it's just like, that's going to be the next chapter. And I'm excited because like, if you look at the next projects, Guardians, there's going to be no Kangs. Marvels, maybe something minute, but I don't think anything that big. And then next year, God, let me look up what we have next year for MCU movies in 2024. But like, what I'm trying to say is there might be a string
Blade,
of,
Deadpool. What else we got? I can't
Yeah.
think of anything that seems
So-
Kang centric.
so Thunderbolts, I don't think that's gonna happen. That's gonna be people based and stuff like that. We got, fuck, don't give me just the logos here. Oh my God, how many people are just making shit fake logos here? Daredevil, that's not gonna have anything. Agatha, like, I don't think so. Captain America: New World Order. So like the most is maybe Deadpool, because Deadpool. Owen Wilson is in Deadpool, right? There's rumors of TVA, so maybe there's
Is
something.
he's confirmed?
He's confirmed quotations,
Okay.
but he's in it. He's in it, and they've even
lying.
said, I think, yeah, Travis isn't a hero, but like, and I
There you
think
go. That's cool.
either Jackman or Deadpool, fucking Reynolds, I think accidentally let it slip, like the words TVA. So other than maybe Deadpool 3, which I think will have some multiverse stuff, and I don't know if they'll use Kang there. This Loki could be the last time we see Kang for a little bit, so that's kind of fun to know that we'll be getting him in the near few months. So anything to say on this scene? Basic scene, but
Yeah, I don't think I was expecting for Kang to be in Loki season 2 for whatever reason. Obviously, we're not gonna have the same one that we had in season 1, but
Yeah.
yeah, like that's a very interesting prospect. I guess for me, I came out of it, I'm like, oh, I was hyped to see Loki first of all, and Mobius as well. I like that character a lot, but I was just a bit confused. I'm like, okay, where is this? Which universe is this in? What day is it? Like what year, or what year is it rather, not what day. So I think I came up with a few more questions, but obviously those are going to be answered later this year for anything. If not, some Marvel super sleuths can probably crack this in a few days anyway. So I'm into it. I like the setup, and yeah, I mean both these end credit scenes getting me hyped, even though I didn't had a lot of issues in the movie. Both the end credit scenes did a good job, and so much lately we've been doing the format of, okay, here's one story end credit and then a joke one, and I'm glad that we got like two big story ones that are leading to different projects too, in a way, because I feel like that first one is more putting your sights on Kang Dynasty, whereas obviously the second one's going to Loki, so I like that as well.
Even though I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to see that council and Loki for some reason,
No,
because they
I
could
don't
have
think
shot
so.
those two scenes, like they could have shot at the same time and separate them, just because they might be like this Kang that we're meeting now in Loki season 2. He could be brought into the council or something.
Yeah,
like
I
that,
just don't think there's any way that like Loki kills all those guys. Like those guys will be around in Kang Dynasty still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that, like Dylan just mentioned, we didn't have the one comedy one and like a serious one. I was very much expecting that. So we got the first just collection of the Fellowship, I guess, the Fellowship of the Kangs. I'm gonna start calling it, assembling, and it was like, okay, I know there's gonna be another end credit scene, and it's probably gonna be just some ants or some goo sequence, and Shay's already looking at me because I'm making her wait for the end credit scene. She just wants to go. She didn't like the movie, and then and then it was pleasantly surprised because it was like the silhouette of Kang, and then we got Loki, we got Mobius. Shay loved Loki. She loves Tom Hiddleston, so she was like grinning ear to ear from that
Just
point
when
on
she's
to
out,
the movie.
just when she's out, they bring her back in.
Like literally, yeah. She's like, "Oh, I hated that movie. Should have just watched Shark Boy and Lava Girl. That movie was awful." And then we got to the last end credit, and she was very hyped. And
You been watching Shark Boy lately? You got that on the mind.
Not at all. No, it was her. I don't even think I've seen that movie, but she's got that one
memes
ready to go.
The memes are there, yeah. Especially George Lopez's character now compared to
that was it, because we laughed and she's like, "Why they have the Spy Kids guy in there too?" But was that a Shark Boy thing where he's got the big head?
No, Spy Kids 3D is what happens. No, people, you must not have seen. They've memed on lots of shots from the movie, like looking identical to Spy Kids, and it does look pretty close. So,
yeah, but yeah, so it was cool to see more Kang points on my MCU draft, but also just seeing Owen Wilson there and Tom Hiddleston. It's just like, man, this is coming this year. Like I'm so ready for some more Loki. So
who is Loki? Does anyone have Loki? Who's Loki?
You have Loki, Travis.
Okay.
And so Taylor's got Mobius, so he got some points there too.
So me and Taylor both got unannounced appearance and post-credit things.
I got, but I lost 10 with MODOK dying, but I got 5. I have 5 because of Mobius. So.
I'm coming for that second place. I don't give a fuck. I'm coming for that second place, But yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was a great way to end, because I was sitting there feeling like I'm gonna get disappointed with this last end credit scene, and I wasn't. It was like. And I feel like everybody that stayed was like, nice, yeah, okay, we got Loki coming. Like, it was that vibe, not just like, is that it? Really? I remember getting those sometimes.
And yelling that. Is that it, really?
Yeah. You're lying.
You're a liar. Welcome to the new Geek First meme for February, everybody. You're lying. She's a hero. So Taylor, anything else to add?
Yeah, I just thought that this was it was an interesting scene because, again, I always Google and I think, okay, like how many post-credit scenes are we going to get? And I think, okay, like we'll get the first like mid-credits scene. That's going to be probably the important one. And then the end one will probably be maybe like an ant playing on the drum set again. I don't know. So
Kang playing on the drums.
Kang playing on the drums.
One of the variants.
So the fact that we got something really juicy like this was awesome. I have no idea like, because they really emphasized like the name and like the Emporium and like this Kang in particular, and I'm curious how this Kang is going to play out in the grand scheme of things.
He could be a good
And
one, maybe.
could be a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
Seeing Loki and Mobius was just fantastic. I wasn't expecting that, and they just are like, I like their style too, very 1800s English,
Debonair.
proper debonair. Yeah, very very cool. Very,
Very
very
Hogwarts
much liked
Legacy.
it.
Yeah. Well, now we come to that time. I'll start with you, Dylan. Any final thoughts on this movie?
I feel like I've pretty much said it all. I think for me in the MCU ranking, this is definitely bottom tier, but I think for me it's still it's above the Thor 1 and 2s. It's above the Miss Marvels, the Captain Marvel. Those are like for me the very bottom of the barrel. It's above those, but it's still distinctly in that
Above Captain
bottom
Marvel,
tier.
I'm surprised.
I think
feel
so because
I think you do a
just-
double feature. You'd have less negatives on Captain Marvel than this, in my opinion.
You might be right, but that just movie is just so bland.
That's fair.
And uninteresting that I can at least look at this movie and maybe on a rewatch, it'll be some of it will be funnier or something, or like the Kang stuff will still stand out. Whereas God, I can't even get through that movie. It is just so boring to me. But anyway, distinctly in the bottom tier, but I think probably at the top of my bottom tier. So like I don't know, it's probably the 6th or 7th lowest project for me in the MCU, and like huge drop off from the first two Ant-Man. So I'm pretty bummed because I think out of all of us here, I was probably the most hyped for this, just in terms of talking about it leading up to this. So yeah, I was pretty let down. Especially we got the like. Someone posted that the Rotten Tomatoes was, really low on this thing. And for reference, I don't really know what anything in the MCU is Rotten Tomatoes wise, but like the only other one being Eternals is the only other rotten one. I'm like, I love Eternals, so I don't really care if this is rotten. Like I might have a good time with this, but no, I did not, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'll go next because we end on the more positive scores. Yeah, I can't pass it. So like I want to give it like a 5 out of 10, but I still feel like I can't pass it. So that's what I'm gonna do the cop out. I'm gonna give it a 4.9 out of 5 because I just
Out of
can't.
5.
Oh,
Holy
sorry,
fuck.
shit.
The highest rating
Fucking
of all time.
incredible.
I'm lying.
This movie
no.
is a hero.
yeah. No, 4.9 out of 10. I can't give it that 50, and maybe that'll change. I'll give it one day when I've had some time to stew on it, and maybe, in 2 years, because in 2024 we'll do our Patreon ranking. We'll rank Phase 5 and stuff like that. But as of right now, there is some good. I don't think it's a good movie. I think there's good moments. I could see myself enjoy it. I don't think it's one of these where like, oh, this is like for me like a Suicide Squad 2016. Like, okay, I can see why you could enjoy this. Kang's great. I think Pfeiffer's great. There's some other fun moments in there. Some good one-liners, but I just don't think there's enough positives for me to get it over that line. I really, really don't. Maybe if Kang was in it, even more so, but even then, that's just one character, and it's hard to pass a movie just on one character where the rest of the stuff to me was mediocre or bad. And I did love MODOK, but MODOK's just like that was a fun joke for me. I don't think that was like, oh, that could push it over. So maybe one day, if I watch, I could push it to that 0.1%, but as of right now, I think I'm going to make history and fail an MCU movie for the first time ever for myself, and that's what I'm doing here with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Unfortunately, because I don't like that. I like that I could always say I've liked every single Marvel film, and now I really can't say that. I say I can, like I said, even stuff like Miss Marvel, even stuff like Eternals for me was the closest to saying like I could pass it, but I don't think I can give it like I like the movie. But this is one I know in my heart of like, yeah, I will watch the Kang cut if someone makes that. So that is my final thoughts on Ant-Man: Quantumania.
Good stuff. All right. This was one I was stewing on for a hot minute here. It was tricky because when I left, it was like, man, I had a good time with that movie, and it's really all I'm looking for when I go out to the movie theater. Some good popcorn, good drink, just good times, good laughs,
You
which
had a
I
big
got.
drink.
Large drink.
I had a
you had a
large
large
drink.
drink, yeah.
Yes, not perfect amount of ice, not too watered down. But as we discuss, as things go on with the review, you guys pointed out some things that really made me realize that this wasn't
Sorry.
top tier like I thought it was. But still, I think I'm gonna give this one a 7.5 out of 10. 75%. It's pretty decent score. I was just, as you guys were going, I was looking at my MCU list, and because I was like, yeah, I felt like it was pretty good, but looking at the list, it's still like probably bottom 10.
Yeah.
But you know, that's like 41 projects now, I guess.
31.
And sorry,
I think it's 31.
41.
41?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
41.
I got 40 on my list, so it better be 41 now. So
He's
yeah,
lying.
42. 42 projects.
I
I
think
have it open. I have my Excel sheet, and my Excel sheet does not
okay.
lie.
There you
I
go.
just put it on my list. At 36.
I think the Kang stuff was really good, but unfortunately, yeah, like they did drop the ball by not having maybe a Scott and Cassie sequence, or maybe an additional Pfeiffer and Majors sequence, or maybe even another Scott and Hope sequence. So it is kind of unfortunate that, like, for 2 out of the 3, like, we just didn't really get any of those moments. But you know, I still had a good time with this one. I definitely will be rewatching it. Probably not in theaters. I'll probably just wait till it comes to D+. But yeah, so there you go. 75%, 3.5 out of 5.
So I had to look at my letterbox, and I had to confirm like what I rated like the other films in this. So earlier I said this is definitely the film I enjoyed most so far of 2023. Well, apparently that's not the case, and I had to rank it
Wow.
accordingly on my letterbox.
You're lying.
There's one other movie that I gave
lying.
perfect score. I'm lying, and I can't give this movie a perfect score.
Wait, you gave something a perfect score, and you.
Oh, I fucking love that movie. Yeah, but I forgot I
about
gave it a
that.
perfect score. I had when
Which
I looked back
movie?
at my
Can you
list.
reveal that?
Megan.
You gave that a perfect score.
Oh yeah,
I
love
truthfully
the
would
messaging.
I would rate Megan higher than this though. So like I'm not.
Me
he's
too.
not
You
crazy.
Passed
I haven't
Megan
seen it.
too, so that's
I did.
something.
No, I passed Megan. So yeah.
But with this, I would probably go. I probably.
Yeah, just turned into a transformer there for a second.
I'd probably go. I feel like I'm torn between 7.5 and 8 because I did thoroughly enjoy a lot of this.
What does your heart tell you?
My heart tells me an 8. I'm gonna go an 8.
Yeah, go
He's
with
Sorry,
eight.
lying. He's lying.
yeah,
7.75.
8 out of 10. I got a lot of enjoyment out of this movie, from RTS to Star Wars to seeing the different like races,
everything
the
it
quantum
wasn't.
realm. Like yeah, there's just so much going on that I really enjoyed. A lot of the humor did work for me. Seeing like the action sequences was pretty cool. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier on, but it really hit me, was when they're all in the car and the Paul Rudd's audiobook is playing. It's like, yeah, I met this talking raccoon, and I don't think he knew my name, but I'm just happy I could talk to him. So just random stuff like that.
I was hoping that was his podcast, actually, because I was Dylan and I, we were talking about that on the podcast. So too many podcasts there, I just said.
Podcast
But
option.
yeah, unfortunately it was his audiobook. I'm worried we're just never going to get a reference to that again. I was hoping that would be a reoccurring thing just throughout the Ant-Man universe, that he's just talking about the podcast or whatnot. But
did any of you guys have? I'm sure one of you guys had Jimmy Woo, because he was in this.
What do you-
Yeah.
Oh, in the draft. I thought you meant like in our version.
Someone
we
did.
get
I think
Jimmy
it was you,
Woo?
Taylor, maybe.
I thought I had him, actually.
I don't think it was me.
Guys, it doesn't matter. Kirklin has one.
Did you guys get Jimmy Woo in your version
I've
of the
already given
movie?
up.
I did get
didn't.
Jimmy Woo. That was my 10th pick. So there you go.
That's
There you go. Let's
that's a
seal the
sup-
deal there for
Oh
you.
my god!
Yeah,
Kirkland cleaned
that's
up.
what put him over.
Yeah, that's a surprise appearance right there. My god,
Cassie
you
Lang
cleaned
too. A
up.
lot of points in this movie.
Fuck, you need more deaths over there. My god. Jeez. Well, there you go. We have done it. We have reviewed the first entry into the Phase 5 multiverse saga. So if you listen to this, we'll be back for Secret Invasion whenever that comes out. Loki, we got Guardians. I guess Guardians might be even first before Secret Invasion, and the Marvels. So still, they might be slowing down some Marvel stuff, but still, there's 4 more projects left, maybe even 5 of What If. Well, actually, there's X-Men 97, so maybe even 6 of What If comes out. So their slowdown rate is still a lot faster than the other people's, but we'll be here for each and every one. Thank you to everyone that listened, and I promise when you hear from us next, it'll not be boring.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
See ya.